to make art like really spectacular looking, most of the time it's probably not going to be from life. It's going to involve more planning and more time and all that than that if I want to make stuff like that's really cool. So I'm starting to want to like paint from photos a little bit more to be like, oh, I saw this amazing epic mountain vista and I want to spend, you know, like a week or something like that in the studio just really getting all the details. And that's like my ultimate goal. But right now I'm not finding that kind of thing to be as fulfilling as painting from life. So I'm going to have to turn that corner at some point, or, you know, maybe do a little bit of both.
Anyways, welcome to Waiting to Dry, everybody. I am Sergio Lopez.
I'm Josh Lawyer.
And we have a special guest today. Some might say the most special. She is my girlfriend. She is the Chan to my Ranjan. She is Vanessa Walsh.
Don't you know who we are? We're Chan and Ranjan.
I have no idea who these people are.
Thank you for that headcanon that Chan and Ranjan are in love. We're talking about Avatar here.
I did watch Avatar. I'm just so bad at names. I'm like, I've seen it. It's come and gone.
Yeah.
That's like a 1 second.
That was a very
thing.
minor little part.
Oh, I see.
There's an episode towards the end of the series where like a bunch of the Fire Nation kids just go off to an island to the beach.
Oh, all the like spoiled like rich kids.
Yeah. And then they just like trash some people's party at some like bitchy teenagers party, and their names were Chan and Ranjan.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
That's funny. When I was looking that up, actually, I came across some DeviantArt pages, and yeah, they've done some creative speculation on the relationship with each other.
Dear. I could go off about Avatar relationships, but we don't have to do that right now. All our podcasts are going to become Avatar podcasts because I'm such a nerd. Anyway.
Did you just watch it, Sergio, or have you been?
Let's see. We watched the original series, like just a couple of months ago.
Yeah, we just finished Korra though, yesterday. Yeah.
How was it?
I really like it.
I like them both. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna watch it, and I was like, I don't know. I gotta figure out if it'll ruin it for me.
It's a lot darker and a lot different.
I like that.
Like they intentionally made the main character like way different than the main character in Avatar, pretty much like as different in personality while still being like a good person as they could have. Which is like an intentional choice. That makes a lot of like Avatar hardcore fan people mad, but me, I'm into it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. Characters are a lot different, but still like same sort of charm that the original one has.
And the backgrounds are gorgeous. Like the art in that show is amazing. That's actually one of the like big appeals to me. And you actually are doing that Sentient Academy course, and one of the teachers like did some of the backgrounds.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly who it was, but I missed that part of the meeting.
Weren't paying attention. You're like, wait, Korra backgrounds.
Exactly.
Cool. But it's like, I watched it before Sergio, and I'd send him like screenshots, and I'm like, look how cool this looks. Because I paint in gouache, and even though they're obviously digital backgrounds, I feel like they look a lot like gouache, and they kind of give me a little bit of like inspiration for painting ideas. So
that's cool.
It's a cool aspect of that show. Just like a little bonus. Even when they're just like walking down the street, you look at the background and it looks like awesome. So that's a plus of that show. Especially if you like fantasy landscape type of paintings.
Yeah, it's always those type of things in like cartoons that are like the real star of the thing. When they like, when all of a sudden you're like, who the fuck did like all of it? You could tell like there was like an artist who's like, I'm gonna geek out today.
Right, yeah.
And you're like, who did that? I remember, was it like Ren and Stimpy that would randomly have like highly rendered stuff?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, gosh, that was one of the reasons I can't even watch that. They're super close up, like really disgusting things. Yeah. Yeah.
I can't remember who else, but I mean, even like the Looney Tune cartoons.
Oh yeah, they would do that all the time.
Like the Roadrunner shit and all that stuff. All of a sudden it'd be.
They have these epic backgrounds that were like, you can tell now. If you went back to look at them, you can tell how hand painted everything is back then. And then I guess as a kid, you probably didn't even like really think about, somebody actually had to draw and paint all this.
Yeah. When I used to be super into anime, I got bored one day and watched like the special features on this anime called Full Metal Panic. And it showed these artists going to Hong Kong and like sketching out like real streets and neighborhoods and buildings that they then, drew out and illustrated and animated and put into the show. And everything there was like real reference. And I thought that was really interesting to see, because it's like you see these things for like 1 second and you don't even like notice it. And so much goes into making that stuff happen. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever heard of them doing it that way, where they actually like, send the person out to.
Well, I think they already live there.
Oh.
Or maybe, I don't know. I don't remember where I was.
Well, I know
produced.
Pixar, they always do like just trips just for research purposes.
Yeah. I follow a Pixar artist on Instagram, and before that, that Zoo movie came out. What is that called?
Zoo movie?
There's like Zoo. It's
Zootopia?
Zootopia, I think.
Uh-huh.
They were drawing fennec foxes on their Instagram story.
Oh,
And they
really?
were seeing like little baby fennec foxes at the zoo.
Oh,
It was
that's
just
cool.
like, some kind of Disney or Pixar movie is going to come out and have fennec foxes in it.
Yeah.
And then it did. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Nice.
Have you ever gone to, what's the place up here? The animal
Oh,
spot?
Safari West?
Safari West. I've been there,
and,
yeah.
like drawn or painted?
I have not painted there, but I went on the tour there. It's kind of expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, the tour I went on, I think, was like $60, and you just get to go on like a little like ride through the
ride.
place.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
like no real time to draw or paint or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's an interesting idea. Or even just take reference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We took a bunch of reference the first time we went, but
Oh, yeah?
I've never used any of it. I probably
Yeah.
should. But yeah, we went a second time when we took a bunch of reference too, because MJ paid to like go and feed the giraffes and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool.
So you're like right there, but
Uh-huh.
then it's like, I don't know. You end up like, I don't know how to insert a giraffe into my painting.
Right.
Right, yeah.
It could be-
Well, MJ likes to just put animals in her paintings,
Yeah.
so it works for her.
Yeah, I don't know if she's ever used them, but
Oh, really?
I think she's used one reference once. But whatever.
Have you ever been to the B. Bryan Preserve up in Point Arena?
no.
Do you know about that one?
I think I've heard about this, but
Oh,
I have
okay.
not been there. Have you?
One time, yeah.
Oh.
It was actually for a show at the Christopher Queen Gallery. It was like an animal show.
Oh, another one?
Yeah, and yeah, it was like an early one. And I went up there, and they just have a bunch of like antelopes and stuff and zebras just kind of roaming around.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, you could. That feeding the giraffes reminded me of that.
Aren't zebras hella dangerous though?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
Are they?
They're like aggressive as fuck.
They're super aggressive. They're huge
They're
too.
the
Like I
pit
didn't.
bulls of the
Yeah.
horse.
Yeah, they really are.
There's zebras at Corbell Winery by my house.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I
didn't
think
know
I
that.
told you about all the weird drama surrounding the people who looked after those zebras. Did I
No.
tell you about this? Oh my gosh. So Corbell Winery had like the lady who was like the daughter of the owner lived in the house that has all the zebras and like all this like animal menagerie there. And she was having like sex parties with the employees at this house. So it created this gigantic scandal.
Oh, yeah, I do remember you.
Yeah,
telling me.
it's just like the weird zebra house sex party scandal at Corbell Winery.
The
And
zebras are like, I had nothing to do with this.
Yeah,
What the fuck am I a part of the story for?
yeah, well, I guess she got kicked out of the zebra house and fired and everything, and it was this big thing.
She got me
So
too'd.
The zebras, the zebras weren't involved in the sex, thankfully. But gosh,
Yeah, that's
quality content here, guys.
It's like real money problems.
Right.
Yeah,
When you own zebras, it's like, all right, well,
right.
it's like something I'll never understand.
Have like a rich person animal menagerie. Yeah. Yeah, I stayed at a fancy resort in Mexico one time, and they had like flamingos and peacocks and monkeys and all this weird stuff for like rich people to come and like gawk at.
Right.
Very strange, but it was kind of gross. Like it smelled really bad and
Oh, really?
stuff. Yeah, it was just a strange feature.
Yeah, it's always kind of like this cool/sad thing.
Yeah, it is.
You're like, oh wow, but I mean,
Yeah,
should this be happening?
right.
It's like the Tiger King guy.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Shout
Yeah,
out.
exactly.
Shout out Joe Exotic.
Not cool, Trump.
He was, yeah.
Yeah.
He was talking about how he was It was just a couple days ago. He was too gay for Trump to pardon him, and he thought that was the reasoning that Trump didn't pardon him. I was like, well, you actually committed some pretty bad crimes on camera, so that's probably why you're in jail. Like,
Yeah.
Well, you ain't that straight.
What did it say?
Well, you ain't that straight.
I feel like Trump only wanted to pardon him because it was some weird social media attention thing, then like nothing to do with him actually deserving it. Like, yeah.
Probably.
But him being popular and people wanting him like out of jail and all that was kind of depressing because it was just like, you just think he's entertaining. That's the only reason you like him and think he should be out of jail is because like you think he's funny and entertaining, not because you think he didn't do anything wrong. Like,
but there are some people, because the documentary makes it kind of play it or make it seem like he might be innocent in a way.
Kind of.
There's a vagueness, and I wouldn't be surprised if people are like, he's innocent. You know what I mean? Like,
well, he definitely like talked about killing her on camera a million times, and it's like it could be argued it was for entertainment or joking, but also there was the campaign finance stuff that was actually like pretty darn illegal, and that was also on camera.
But he actually hired the guy.
He did hire the guy. Yeah, that's one thing. But the guy acted like he had no intention of actually like ever doing. Yeah, I went to a strip club. That interview in the bathtub they did with that guy.
So weird.
Everything was so weird. The guy with his shirt off doing the interview, and he was like, he came back later and he was just like, I was just trying to show off my tattoos, and now everyone thinks I'm a redneck or something like that. It's like, well,
that's redneck-ish tendencies there.
Okay, the missing teeth, shirt off, and that was like one of the more reasonable guys in that whole show too. Like, which says a lot, I guess. Yeah.
Good times.
Seriously, Tiger King is just a phenomenon. I feel like
that
it coming
was
out
a year ago.
Yeah, at the beginning of quarantine last year, made a big difference in
people
being into it because it's just like right at the beginning of like deep quarantine when you couldn't even go to like a park, you know, and everyone was just like not knowing what to do and going a little stir crazy. So that's when,
that was like social media. It was like, is everybody watching this crazy shit on Netflix? That was basically.
Yeah, I've noticed like things blowing up on social media has been like magnified since COVID because everyone's just stuck on social media, and that's like their
everyone
context.
Starting up their TikTok account.
Yeah, TikTok is another thing. I actually started TikTok, and so did you. Which I tried TikTok before, and it just annoyed the heck out of me because it was just people like lip syncing to the same 4 songs.
It's like you have to like work through the algorithm. You have to really figure. You have to let them know that you hate that shit, and then you start liking shit that. Right. And then all of a sudden your feed changes. Then you get to cool and then all of a sudden you start slipping into like weird worlds where you're like have you guys gotten to the cartel yet?
No. The actual cartel?
Yeah, like the actual cartel TikTok is fucking nuts.
They have an official TikTok?
No, it's not like, it's like all of a sudden you're like, you watch one cartel video and you're like, what the fuck did I just watch? And then you if you like it, if you kick the like button, then all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, they just like, there's a video of fucking guys just jumping out of trucks and with like AKs or whatever and running up to cars and just blasting them, and you're like,
holy shit.
That's like, on TikTok?
Oh yeah, there's some crazy shit on TikTok. If you like accidentally stumble into it.
Oh my goodness.
And you're like, I don't know if I want to keep watching this or not, but it's super interesting.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, like, how dark does it get? Well, you answered that question.
Yeah.
Do they like actually show people like getting murdered and stuff?
Well, you don't see, at least I haven't seen like actual murder. You just see, you're like, well, the person in that car's dead. You know, or they did things where they would show like a cartel guy would walk up to all his like military Jeep type things. They were like these almost like large like Sprinter vans, but they were like, they had just super like thick metal all around, and they had these slots where they would stick out guns and shoot and stuff like that. And then you'll watch a video randomly where you see the van like driving through just shooting at shit. And there's like guys hiding and like videotaping it. And you're like, holy fuck, that world is crazy.
All right. The dark side of TikTok. Damn. Yeah. Most of my TikTok is like people doing art and stuff.
I almost have no art stuff.
Yeah. Some of the art stuff has been annoying me lately, though, because of like the algorithm mining that people are obviously doing. Like, there's this 2 or 3 audio things going around TikTok right now that go like, okay, so I'm an artist and I'm running a small business and I really appreciate it if you like and share.
Right.
And that's totally reasonable. But then like the 7th or 8th time you hear that exact audio in like 3 or 4 different formats, it's like, okay, I get it. Like, I want to support you guys, but this is just annoying the heck out of me right now.
Even then, it's like, I always feel like you shouldn't, you're like pressuring someone to support you isn't like a good way to do it.
I also feel kind of gross about that too. Yeah.
It's like it's funny because recently there was a video on TikTok where guys like, it was an art video and the guy's like, oh, like I recently had a friend and I told him I painted and he was like, oh, are you any good? And I was like, I was confused by the question, and then he was like, so then he's like, oh, and then he was like, so then now today I realized that, like, would you ask someone, are they good at walking? He's like, no, I do it for the pleasure. And then I just messaged in it like, so that's a long way of you saying you're not good. and then I got so much hate.
How funny.
And people were like, what's good? What's bad? And I'm like, he said he's not good. I didn't. Like, but it was this funny thing where it was like, I kept telling people like, it's okay to suck at things. Like, what did you, like, why do you, because he then was like, well, yeah, that stuff, like, if you try, it's boring, pretty much is what he ended up saying. And I'm like, so he demeaned someone that's good, while at the same time being like, you don't need to be good. Like, you could suck. And I was like, why not just say no? When someone's like, are you any good? If you're like, no, I'm not good, but I enjoy it. That's a perfectly good response. Like, it's like if someone was, because I thought the analogy was hilarious because he's like, it's just like walking. And I'm like, no. It's closer to like rock climbing. Like, it's a skill you have to grow at, and you might enjoy rock climbing and suck at it, and that's perfectly fine. No one would go, "Oh, fucking dumbass! Why do you even rock climb?" But it's like this weird. It's this weird. It exists in the art world so much where it's like you can't say you're good or bad. Like, you have to. Everyone has to be based on your personal enjoyment of it, and it was like It's like but so many people were mad. It just made me so funny. Or it made me laugh so much because it's just like this, like you can't say what's good. And I'm like, all right, I don't care. But I'm an asshole, I guess is what it is.
This was on social media.
Yeah.
Was it on TikTok?
Yeah, it was on TikTok. Okay. But people, it was like balance, like a lot of people got mad, and a lot of people were like, ha ha, high five.
Like the people who get mad, their voices are like amplified.
Yeah.
The 1-star reviews of TikTok.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, that one review where people were mad, that really got to me. But at least that's kind of how I look at things sometimes. I try not to, but if someone's giving you a hard time or saying something sucks, that'll like affect me a lot more than like the 100 people telling me that this is good. So but I try not to be that way though. In fact, I think it's kind of a good skill to learn, like not to let that stuff get to you. But yeah. It's
so, if you get really good at just deleting a comment, you realize like, oh, okay, like I don't even think about it anymore. But like if you let it linger there, then you're like, how the fuck should I respond to this motherfucker?
Well, Sergio and I got in like a controversy a little bit in our other podcast.
Oh yeah.
And I pretty much just said like, if anybody is going to like give us a hard time about this, we're just gonna not engage at all, and that's just gonna be our policy, like zero engagement with people giving us shit kind of policy. So because what ended up happening was we gave a restaurant a pretty decent review. We gave them an 8 out of 10, but they were very sensitive, and they
was this the tomato sauce one?
Yeah. And they came back and gave us a really hard time, and I was just like, well, let's just delete the episode, and we'll delete their other episode we did with them too, because I think they were just looking for free advertising and not a genuine review, even though that's not what we do. And they should have researched that before they asked to be on our show. But
the one good thing I like about podcasts though is that since it's long form conversation, you can put out your argument in like kind of a sensible way.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, we're like social media. It's like, no matter how hard I try, it's gonna be like an uphill battle the whole entire way. and you're probably not going to change any minds, and it's just a waste of your fucking time.
That's
but like
true.
when it comes to like long form conversations, podcast style, you can just podcast style. You can just
Podcast style.
you can just explain your thoughts and your reasoning and yada yada, and just let it be, and with the hopes that your listeners will totally understand.
Yeah.
So to me, like whenever I get into like shit, I feel like the podcast is the one place where I'm like, I'm about to go hard in this bitch, because it's like at least I have the ability to explain. And if at the end you're like you're still like no, then I'm like, all right. Unless you're willing to like come on and talk, then it's then I can't help you.
People gave us a bunch of shit on social media after that, and that was when things got kind of like, okay, guys, we're just gonna delete everything. We don't want to talk about this anymore. We're done. So maybe could have handled that better. Like part of me wants to be like, well, we do our podcast with integrity and we're going to keep it up whether you like it or not. But then I was just like, it's just not worth it because we do it for fun. We don't make any money. In fact, we spend a lot of money. So
Right.
Yeah. That was the best for all involved. And we're like, this is our thing too. We could do whatever we want. You know, there's no rules, you know.
I remember there was that person who had like a whole problem with the whole concept of reviewing restaurants.
Yeah, he said we shouldn't review restaurants in the time of COVID because in the time of COVID, how dare I say such a thing? Trademark. But anyway, he was arguing that like, yeah, we shouldn't do critical restaurant reviews because everyone's trying so hard to survive. That is like mean of us. But then we're just like, I think it's important in the time of COVID. I keep saying that stupid phrase. Sorry. To like say how restaurants have changed, how they're protecting their customers in this whole situation, and the different kind of cool things they're doing with like takeout offerings is another cool thing, and also to like spotlight restaurants that might be having a hard time. Right. So it's like we'll go to like hole in the wall places sometimes and like bring attention to them and all that. And we're a member of the Save Sonoma County Restaurants Facebook group, and we'll take suggestions from them a lot and try and like boost these restaurants up. So anyway.
Right. I mean, that's always the like interest. Like, people have a hard time like differentiating the difference between criticism and just shit talking.
Exactly.
And so when you have like a valid critique, then they should be open-minded to taking that in and figuring out if they think it's valid or not.
Right.
So like if you're like, I didn't like this thing because of this, if they're like, well, our intention was for that experience to go that way, then fine. But if it's like, oh, I'd never thought about that, maybe we should take that and adapt something in order to like get better.
Right.
But
that's the thing. Yeah, sorry.
But yeah, it's that's the issue, where instead of being like, that place fucking sucked, you know, like, which is not a critique at all, it's just you being like, fuck that place, then you can get mad all you want. But if there's valid like points being made, or
and we were very thorough too
yeah,
with our reasoning for everything we said.
So that's just on them at that point.
I feel like it was just her personality basically that got in the way, and she was just like, this was her baby and she loved it so much and she had such pride in everything she does. So when we're like, we don't like our soup shooters to be like chunky tomato sauce, she took like personal issue with that because this is like her thing. So I don't know. I guess that's the line you walk doing this kind of thing, putting your opinion out in the open. You got to deal with people's feelings about it. So
and I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I remember like it's like her like new thing, right?
It was a soft opening that we went to, but they invited us to it. So, and
I know like when especially when you're like, when something's new, you're so defensive of it, and you're so like unwilling to like, especially if you're like, I'm doing shit like right, to hear someone critique it is hard to hear.
Yeah.
But like if you're an artist, a lot of times the longer you do it, the more you don't give a fuck about negative critiques.
Right.
But the hope is that it's based on like a lot of times MJ will tell me what she doesn't like about my painting, and it's almost like a shitload of the time I'm like, well, that was kind of like my intention was for that to be that way. So like, I don't know how to I can't change it just because you don't like it. I can't change it because I intentionally did that.
Right. Well, for a painting, it's not about necessary the viewer. It's more about like you, you know.
It's
like
I
a
just had a
personal thing.
conversation about this, which is super interesting.
Yeah.
Where I think I think so. The conversation we had was that I thought that the process of painting is like idea, execution, consumption, right? Like that's what I think it is. So it's like,
Okay.
and then everything is for you up until the moment of consumption by the viewer of any art or listener or whatever the fuck it is, or actually eating a soup shooter.
Right.
But art doesn't exist until that last. That's like the final step to the process, and then criticism and all that other stuff isn't necessarily part of the process. It's just the afterbirth.
Okay.
The afterbirth, the placenta.
And so there's some interesting things that happen afterwards, but it's not necessarily attached to the process of the artist.
Yeah, makes sense.
And so I was having this argument where the other guy was saying, no, art is specifically internal. Like there's no, it's all for you. And I was like, I think I used to think that, but then there is something about art never, like if I create it in a bubble where no one else sees it, no one else knows. It's kind of the idea of if a tree falls in the wood.
Right.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
And so
yeah.
to me, it's like the idea of like if a tree falls in the wood, does it make sound? And he would say yes, and I would say no one gives a fuck. Like if nothing experiences it, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like and obviously a tree is a different thing because the experience would be like the fucking floor experienced it or
Right.
something, and animals eating away at it or some shit. But like, it's almost like the metaphor would be like if a tree fell into nothingness and made a sound where nothing benefited from it breaking down or anything.
Yeah, I think you make an interesting point there because, you know, I'm still learning a lot as an artist, and I entered a show recently and I got rejected, which I know is all part of the process. Like even people who are really good get rejected. But at the same time, it's just like all this time, even those paintings I submitted were basically made for the sake of me learning to paint. Not like I wasn't thinking about like outside consumption at all when I made them. So then I submit them for outside consumption and they get rejected. And it's interesting being on like the cusp of that where I'm finally like turning over into the point where like, oh, I actually want to sell these. I want people to look at them as opposed to just like this is just for me to get better at painting, you know. In a perfect world those things would perfectly marry and people would like still want to buy that kind of stuff, but you know, you got to find the right place and audience and all that.
Right.
So
I think the process of creating the art is interesting because it's almost like, at least for me, it's like trying to blind as much as I can like blind myself from noticing what people might think of it. Especially like my paintings. Mural stuff's a bit different because it's in a public arena and it's curated by a lot of times by cities. But when it's like my private art, it's just me having an idea and trying to create the best version of it that I can figure out, with the idea that I hope that someone can, I don't know, see something in it that resonates with them and hopefully understand what I'm trying to say at the end of the day. So it's like this, you almost, for me, it's like I want my blinders on because it's the assumption that I'm chasing like it's a taste thing, right? It's like,
right.
So it's like I'm trying to pursue my taste and understanding that people will match that.
Your art is interesting too because it always like says something. Like there's always like you look at it and there's like some kind of story or something that it means, you know, as opposed to, you know, just being like this looks cool, you know. So I feel like people can relate not just to the visual but to like the concept you're trying to say. So that has like another level to it.
That's always like the purpose of why you create art is super complicated. Like I have my reasons and my thoughts, and there's always like this. I was the same person I was arguing with before. I argued with him where he said there was two reasons why you create art, and that's to create beauty or a statement. Was that it? It was something else. It wasn't a statement, but it was like very leaning towards political.
Okay.
And I was like, that's like those two reasons are very true, but there's plenty of fucking reasons why you create art.
There's a world of reasons.
Yeah.
There's like no end to the reasons you possibly could.
Yeah, so we got in a long drunk argument about that as well. But yeah, I mean, it is that interesting thing of at the end of the day, we all like creating something that we think is cool is like really a large part of our goal. It's just phrased differently, right? It's like that's taste. That's having an idea and then tackling it based around taste. So what I think is cool is how I want to create the painting, right? But then the I guess the reason about beyond that, at least for me, is it's very rarely just to create something cool.
Right.
I think that's almost everyone's goal is trying to create something they think is, I don't know, cool.
Something that looks good or something they're proud of.
Yeah,
or
that they
whatever.
aesthetically think is like good.
Right. Right. But
But
that's
then-
so amorphous. What's good or not?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's the, that's the TikTok kids' points.
Yeah.
And so to me, I mean, tackling that is like the idea of like, well, to me, I think there is very much defined good when it comes to aesthetics, even, and I think that's based around just like, I don't know, it's like a standard. It's like the idea of like standard plus, what's the fucking word I'm looking for? It's like, so there's obviously like standard beauty, right? And then there's variation, which is also beautiful. So like those two things a lot of times are like what, make life interesting, right?
Yeah. Right.
It's the fact that like everyone knows that French fries are delicious, but variation of food is also amazing. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like people's perception of good, like, has a lot to do with like their opinion of art and where they are as an artist too. It's like looking back 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and I used to do like colored pencil drawings of like baseball players, and my friends and family are like, that's so amazing. And I look back at it now and I'm like, oh, like,
Right.
like I hate that so much. And then, then I finally get to a point where like among my peers, they're like, oh, Vanessa, you're so much better. You're doing so much better. And I'm like, thanks guys. But then I like submit it to a juried panel and they're like, nope,
Right.
So it's interesting seeing people's different like perceptions of
I've
good
never
based on their
set my
opinion.
work to a juried panel. I have no concept of how that would go.
Yeah.
If they would be against it or for it at all. I honestly have no concept.
I think it depends a lot. Like, I think one of the main reasons I got rejected was because looking at the stuff at this particular gallery's past shows, a lot of it is very classical and art schooly, and they are in art school. So I feel like me being self-taught didn't play to their aesthetics at all. Not to mention out of the, like, I think 100 pieces got in, and only one of them was gouache, which is my medium. So I feel like they wanted like, oh, the classical oil still life on a background, kind of with like a black background kind of stuff,
Like a
fading
Sergio
into the
Lopez.
shadow. Well, he doesn't do that kind of stuff too often, but
Right.
he definitely has that in his wheelhouse.
I can if I want to.
If you want to, yeah. Well, our friend Heather Ian Martin, friend of the podcast, she normally does like kind of bright, colorful, gouache stuff, but she does oil painting sometimes. And she recently did a painting of like a radish, and it's like laying elegantly on a counter with a black background with the leaves like cascading off, and it's like, wow. Normally her gouache stuff is so not seeming art schooly like that, but that particular painting felt very like that. You know what I mean? That particular aesthetic. Yeah, where it's just
Right.
here's your subject and it's kind of like spotlighted on a stark background, Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, her work. So that's more like it's more like posed with the idea of like it's like ballet, right? It's like to create lines and to intensify like everything about like to like make it dramatic and all these ideas. Where Heather's usually like based around like the reason she connects with people, I think, is mainly because you see these still lifes and they feel authentic.
Right.
It's the authenticity that really resonates with you as the viewer.
Yeah, she'll do like the mixer in her kitchen with like broken eggs next to it, or she'll do like her dirty tools on her workbench and stuff like that. And it's kind of fun. And I think also she like doesn't render things very excessively. So you can kind of see all the strokes and lines, but it still comes together in a really nice way, which is always something I really enjoy about certain artists. It's like if they don't render things a lot, but things still look awesome and still like look like they should, then I think that's always like very admirable too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm not I like it, and it's an effect. That's how I think about that. Like it's cool. And when it's well used, it's great. And when it's not, I don't care too much.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, yeah. There's a fine line between it that being good or bad.
Yeah.
You know.
You don't need to use computer graphics all the time in your movie. You know what I mean? Like, I just watched the movie now where they had a fake table. I'm like, you could have just used a real fucking table. Like, is the real table too hard? Like, they flip a table and you're like, that was a fake table?
What?
Why?
What movie was it?
The Invisible Man.
Oh.
Oh.
It was actually an alright
the
movie.
Elizabeth Moss one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that one's
I think
actually
that's her
pretty good.
name.
Yeah. The lady from Mad Men.
I just assumed. I was like, yeah, probably.
Yeah. Well, there's a new one, and then there's like a
The new one.
Yeah.
The lady from Mad Men.
From Mad Men. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's rad in Mad Men. Anyway,
Yeah.
Sergio hasn't seen that yet.
Elizabeth Moss is
Yeah.
her name?
Yeah.
Okay. Moss. I'll remember that.
Will you?
Probably. I'll remember the Moss part.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, that's Moss over
I just
there.
attached
Moss.
it to Moss
Okay.
in my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one. But they used a fake table, and I was like, use a fucking real table.
That's ridiculous.
God. Every time you have, it's not always necessary to show your brushstrokes.
Right.
But then some people are great at it.
I remember in art school, everyone was obsessed with brushwork, like the least amount of brush strokes to make something.
Right.
And it kind of like ended up being part of like the academy style. Like people talk about that.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, your friend Gerard, has he been on the podcast?
Not yet.
He does art
Butler?
teaching. Is that his last name?
Butler.
What's his last name? Gerard? Forget.
Gutierrez.
Yeah. He did like a Instagram story about using like 25 strokes to paint a persimmon or something like that. And it's just like, it's such an art school type of exercise. Because I'm like, I have no desire to do that.
I could use one mark to make an orange.
Yeah.
Just give me one of those bingo dots, orange shape.
Oh, there you go.
Orange.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, it's like this like race to like the like. I don't know. There's always that, right? There's like it's human nature. For instance, like the girls with the ripped knees, right?
Okay.
And now girls just have fucking their front, like half of their jeans are missing.
Yeah.
And it's like there's always a race to be the most of whatever the fucking thing is. Do you know what I mean? It's like, all right, when paint strokes, it's like it's a tool. Like use it when you think it's like when it makes sense, and maybe it always makes sense. I don't know, but
I use all the brush strokes.
when you're the person that's like, I use 4 marks, it's like, all right, well, you have half jeans. You know what I mean? Like,
Sergio has
you have
jeans
weird
like that.
shorts.
Sergio has jeans with the knee pre-ripped. It's pretty funny.
But did you earn it or did you buy it that way?
No, he bought it that way.
Oh shit!
They're my trendy jeans.
You're so guilty. I think they have like some embroidery on the
You
back.
should get like a knee
they're
tattoo where it's just like a guy's face every time you bend your knee.
Oh, yeah.
Hey.
Whose face should it be? Bob Ross.
Yeah. Beetlejuice from what's the guy's show? Howard Stern.
Oh, the weird looking little guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about. That's
It's
fascinating.
like, I don't know what he has, pinhead or something like that. He's like a
some.
little person, maybe a pinhead.
Yeah, he's just a really bizarre looking guy.
He's a bizarre looking guy. He's the most bizarre guy I could think of to put on your name.
His face reminds me a little bit of Patrick the Starfish from SpongeBob.
What?
Yeah.
I have to see what this person looks like
I
now.
see you'll agree.
Okay.
But yeah. Strokes. Yeah.
Brush strokes.
Yeah, brush strokes. I use so many brush strokes when I paint because I love getting lost in the details, especially when I'm painting something from life.
Right.
And not outdoors where you have to kind of think about time. But if I'm painting something from life, like indoors in a controlled environment, I'm just like in it, I'll take, I'm not even thinking about that at all.
Yeah.
That does feel like brushstroke economy is not anything I care about at all.
To me, it's like the same exact reason we have Jackson Pollock. Like, it is a person trying to be like, I do something, so I do it the most different. You know what I mean? It's like someone was like, oh, I like doing things different. And then it's like, that's the rip knee. And then all of a sudden you have Jackson Pollock, which is like the whole half of your pants are missing guy. It's like, I did it the most different. I did it, guys. And you're like, all right, was that the fucking sport? I mean, at the end of the day.
The value I could see in that would be like maybe you could get better at painting something fast so then you can lock in the details afterwards. But I wouldn't be like, oh, I did this in 10 strokes, aren't I pissed? That's not.
But even to me, it's like, if that's the only reason why you do it, then you're just like, it's us geeking out on technique rather than paying attention to like the outcome.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Of saying like, oh, like I really like, because that's what we do as artists. We like enjoy something so much and we like hyper focus and we want to like do it more. And it's like, yeah, that's great. But like, we have to like remember, I mean, there's a lot like for like comparing it to music, there's always the guy that's doing like the super weird shit. And it's like at the end of the day, I can only like listen to that song maybe once, if ever.
Totally.
And it's like, what the fuck is the point of it? If that's where it's like talking about like how it's like the process of art being like at the end, consumption is like the goal at some level. It's like you have to. Like, if no one can consume it because you made some inedible fucking, soup shooter, then that's your fault. That's you haven't, as artists, we're supposed to have empathy. You haven't thought of even like you're not trying to think of the viewer. To me, like when I'm creating art, it's based on the idea that I'm noticing patterns that I think are super interesting in humans, right? So I go like, oh, I think this is super interesting. I want to talk about it. I'll talk about it with the idea that like, even though I'm not trying to take in people's ideas of how they're going to view it, I think that people are going to connect on it because I see the pattern. I see the human nature in it and I try to recreate it. Where like, if you're like, oh, I really love fucking basil, I'm going to like, make a I don't know,
a
like
basil cocktail.
Yeah, a fucking basil bazooka
smoothie.
that I fucking paintball gun shoot people with while they're coming in as a way to like,
right.
It's the experience. It's like at that point, it's like you're too hyper focused on your love for the detail that you're not paying attention to like other things about creating, which is a mistake in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like people's egos come into it too, where they're just like, this is so great and I love it, so here you go, without thinking about like, is this actually interesting or good? But I guess that's a balance you have to strike at some point.
Yeah. And I think it's weird because when people when people use interesting techniques and do it in these amazing ways, it's like no one judges that person. Do you know what I mean? No one goes like, oh, like I think the fuck's that guy's name? What's that guy's name that was at the one gallery in San Francisco that probably might have been one of your last shows you went to before it closed down?
Was it Serge Gay Jr.?
It was like a Spanish dude or
Jose Luisina.
Oh,
right. Yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah,
so fucking bad at names. But yeah, like his technique is like, he's geeking out on his technique, but he's also focused on how like the painting is at the end. Like it doesn't. He's using it to his advantage rather than doing it just to pat himself on the back, where everyone else viewing it is like, I don't give a fuck about this, whatever you're doing, because it sucks. Because it's just you just high-fiving yourself on making cool glaze shit. You know what I mean? Like billing layers. It's like, well, I don't care. So that's like, that's a person who loves you when you as the viewer see it, you see the love that he has for that technique.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But it doesn't, it enhances the art rather than just kind of distract you from what he's creating.
Right.
Right.
His art isn't a technique. It isn't paint drips. It's fucking, he's making something.
Yeah. Yeah, that reminds me of something about that show, slightly off topic, but about one of his pieces. So Sergio and I were at that show, and we're looking at one of his pieces. I think it's a woman holding a baby, looking like behind her, kind of, there's like a sense of urgency, and then there's a deer. And
Yeah.
and there's kind of like weird, like a weird kind of bluish shapes in the sky. And we're looking at it, and we were trying so hard to figure out.
It's like UFOs.
Yeah.
Revealing.
Well, we were trying to figure out what this painting was about, and I can't remember what we were theorizing. But once we saw the title, which was like UFOs landing, our conception of the piece like completely changed. And I thought that was interesting that once we see the title of the piece, like we're not like wondering what's going on anymore, and that made it actually kind of less interesting, even though it was a really good painting still. But that made the painting a lot less interesting, because a lot of his paintings are like, you look at them and you're like, you could look at them for a while trying to figure out exactly what's happening in here, but there's enough to still like draw you in. It's not just like, oh, this is weird, whatever, So,
and maybe it was because even if like, to me, it's like that might have been a misstep with his title. Like he could have still left the, like, because to me, I think a really well done title is like this can be amazing in a painting.
Totally.
It really can. It can be the twist ending you want, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. But it has the ability to be the end, the last thing you add to the painting, and the last thing the viewer can ingest to kind of make everything click, or potentially click. But when you make it so obvious, like a UFO landing, then it's like, all right, well, everything's there now.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
But I think, there's plenty of ways you could, I'm not about the fucking title of this painting, but like there's plenty of ways you can make it so that it's suggested but not necessarily spoon-fed.
That was pretty much how we felt about it too. That's just like, oh, this is a lot less interesting now that we are not trying to interpret it anymore.
Right, exactly.
But it might also be something that like a viewer of art that's more kind of new might geek the fuck out on. So, but I don't know if that was his intentions or not, but like sometimes people make good pop music, you know what I mean?
It might have been like he probably didn't think about maybe people not interpreting it at first. Yeah.
Was English his first language too?
No.
Yeah, so that might also be tough in general as well.
I'm terrible at titling paintings. Like I'd be like, Red Onion Study, like that'll be my title. Heather and I were talking about that too. She never really puts forth the titles of her paintings when she posts them or anything, and she's just like yellow flower on blue background.
Well, I think it's tough when you're doing like still lifes to.
Right.
What are you going to do? Be like the destruction of art democracy?
Poignant loneliness. Like,
at that point, it's like you're doing still lifes. Like it's based around, I don't know, technical ability, the feeling of like authenticity, like all those things. And it's not necessarily, and that's that's where it comes like, the reason I think, or I'm very fixated on good storytelling when it comes to painting, but still lifes aren't necessarily there to. I assume you can, and I'm trying to figure out if there's interesting ways that I would be into doing that. But but if you're painting like still lifes, like flowers and plants and stuff like that, I would assume that that's not your intention.
Right.
To like have the viewer kind of understand something outside of maybe you're baking a cake or something like that.
I really, I admire when artists can do still lifes and they just like look incredible, like beyond what the actual subject looks like Heather's paintings, for example. And, I try and strive for that for my paintings. And I feel like that's something that appeals to me a lot when I decide what I like about art. Like that Jeremy Duncan painting on your wall, for example, which is a gouache painting of fire. It's like... someday I would love to paint like that. Someday I would love to paint like Heather, you know, and I see myself going in that direction someday. And that kind of art appeals to me because it like is personal, you know? So that's the kind of thing, I don't know, that I guess that's when things are good or bad becomes very amorphous because it's so personal to somebody. Like,
right.
Yeah.
And I think it's, I mean, I think it'll be interesting, you know, like say in 5 years from now to see where you are in what you're painting, because shit just changes, you know, like you just go through these large phases and there's a redefining of who you are at some point where you have to like step away from those you admire and kind of figure out like this is now my thing. And even if it's still lifes, of being able to be like, well, now that I've kind of ingested enough technique and then enough artists, and I've kind of figured out how to convey this in a way that reads true to me, now I can kind of start like running towards a path that I totally understand. But there's always that kind of mimicking of artists when you're growing as an artist, where you're trying to be like, oh, these are my artists. And there's almost like a moment where you you know, even like where you're just pretty much just being a fucking copycat of them,
Right.
which I'm definitely guilty of when I was younger. But then you define and redefine, and then you adapt, and you know, it's like you just find yourselves in different places in your life.
Yeah, I love painting from life at the moment, and I don't feel very like fulfilled by painting from photos at all. But that is kind of almost an ego thing, because I feel personally fulfilled by painting from life, because I feel like every time I do it, I get better at it, and I can see that happening.
Right.
I feel like I'm going to get to some point where I plateau for a while. But I'm also seeing something interesting that like most art right now that's like popular involves some kind of figurative element. Not most art in the grand scheme, but you know, in the worlds I travel in. And to make art like really spectacular looking, most of the time it's probably not going to be from life. It's going to involve more planning and more time and all that than that if I want to make stuff like that's really cool. So I'm starting to want to like paint from photos a little bit more, to be like, oh, I saw this amazing epic mountain vista and I want to spend, you know, like a week or something like that in the studio just really getting all the details. And that's like my ultimate goal. But right now I'm not finding that kind of thing to be as fulfilling as painting from life. So I'm going to have to turn that corner at some point, or, you know, maybe do a little bit of both. But, you know, like painting an onion or something, even if I feel like I did a really great job of painting it from life, it's not going to be like this amazing, epic, cool painting, you know? And also, I don't know, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Growth in general when it comes to artists is addictive as fuck. I mean, that's kind of, you know, and boredom is like death in a way, you know, like, so.
Oh yeah, I'm like never bored because I'm always making art.
So especially when you're growing as an artist, everything is super fucking exciting because you're like, holy shit. And then, you know, you look back and a year difference, you're like, fuck, that art sucks ass. Like, that guy fucking sucked, and he thought that was hella dope.
Yeah.
And there's that progression that happens. And then the interesting thing is when you look back at work you did like 3 years ago, and you're like, oh, well, that painting's really good. And then even to a point where you're like, oh, that person was fearless, or things like that. And you start really breaking down like the mental interesting things, because although technique, you've reached a point that you're comfortable in, now the mental aspects of things are different, because growth can make you courageous in a weird way that lets you do things, and you go, fuck, how do I gain courage again?
Yeah.
And stop being comfortable, and
Right.
then and figuring all these. But that's just the process of being an artist and creating. It just is this weird thing that, and then you might also find a technical thing that you get to geek out on, as even though you're developed, you might go, all right, now I'm going to learn how to become a fucking I don't know, make prints or something. Then I've never learned that. So now you have like a bit of growing that you get to do and geek out on,
Right.
and become like kind of like that student again. And then, but it's just all to, I don't know. At the end of the day, you're just trying to create cool shit.
Right. Yeah.
But there's so much mental and technical and life influence, whether you want it or not, you know, that goes into this shit.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine message me, and he's like, "Show me the 5 paintings you're most proud of," and they were all like things that aren't very crazy or interesting. It was like an onion and a lollipop, and like all these like little things that I've done, still life. And I was like, just so you know, these are painted from life. So it's like they might not be what you're expecting to be like an impressive painting, but they're impressive to me and my own skill. You know, yeah. So.
Yeah, you're a much better sport than me. If my friend said that, I'd be like, fuck off, leave me alone.
Right,
Idiot.
Yeah.
That conversation ended up turning south after that anyway. So yeah, he liked my paintings, but then he started being a creep. So yeah, it was like a doorway to start being a creep to me. It was
So now that
my
you've sent me your favorite painting,
Yeah.
now send me a couple other things.
You're right.
Yeah, I was like, oh, you have a boyfriend? Well, I guess I'll try to maintain an interest in you, even though you do, or in being your friend, even though you do. And I'm like,
Oh, that was that guy.
Yeah, that guy. And I was like, I think I'll pass if you're gonna like have to try to maintain an interest in being my friend.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway,
Seems cool.
I think it was the
Like a
paintings
cool
were
guy.
just a way to talk about that. Yeah. So anyway, that's that's done.
I showed you my lollipop, you fucking asshole.
Right? Yeah. It's just like, did you look for 2 seconds at my Facebook to see that my pictures of Sergio are like everywhere?
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Anyway. Yeah. But yeah.
Same thing on my Facebook. Sergio's fucking everywhere.
Do you even use Facebook?
I've used it before.
You have used
I've
it.
Facebooked.
Yeah. I don't use it that much lately. I joined a bunch of Avatar groups and immediately regretted it. All Avatar groups is talk about.
Like,
do
what
is
are
talk
you
about
guys'
how much they
obsession
hate.
with tall blue people? I'm here to talk about.
Not that Avatar. Oh God.
I'm here to talk
Yeah.
about Appa, motherfuckers.
Avatar hardcore fans hate Legend of Korra.
That's weird.
I know. It's interesting, but that's all that pretty much all there is people hating on Korra in those groups. Anyway.
I don't know. Maybe if I watched it when Avatar first came out, I would maybe have a different opinion about it. But
I mean,
Yeah.
if you had like an emotional connection to Avatar when it first came out and you were like expecting Korra to be like a straight sequel and it's like all the people you love are dead and old, like maybe you would be like disappointed in that, but I don't know.
But it's also like, it's hard when people attach themselves to something you create and then you do something different, there is always going to be this like
Just you owe me.
yeah, like this, they're like, this is mine, why the fuck are you changing, type of mentality. And you, as the like creator, you have to be like, I don't give a fuck about what you guys say. Like, I mean, we talked earlier about how we have to like as artists you have to like take in criticism, but when there is like this blind love for something like Avatar or whatever, I mean, I just recently watched, I don't know if you guys ever watched Arrested Development.
I did. I don't think Sergio did. Or did you?
I did here and there. Yeah. When it was like actually on.
You can't here and there watch it, Sergio. Sorry. You can only watch it or not watch it. Joe's a long, ongoing inside joke. You're like,
Right.
I kind of dibble dabble. You're like, well, how do you dibble dabble on an inside joke, Sergio?
I'd be surprised if it made sense if you just dabble in it, to be honest. Because it's,
It literally is a show that if you like, I'll miss an episode. And I'm like, because I've been watching, they rebooted it.
Right.
And I knew there was a lot of hatred towards it. But- so then what I did was I rewatched the first, I don't know, 3 seasons, I think it was, and then rewatched, and then started watching the new season. Then I'm like, oh, the new seasons aren't that bad. But I remember trying to just watch the new seasons and being like, this fucking sucks.
Me too.
This is stupid.
I had the same. I didn't actually watch season 5 yet, but I watched season 4, and they released season 4 in like a very weird format where everything was like out of order and like kind of came together in the end. But then I think people hated it and they like redid it to like make more sense in the timeline. But it was a lot different than like season 3. But like really watching it, I'm like, this is still kind of the same amount of clever and interesting if you really watch it. It's just like a little different, you know, and people don't like that. They don't like the little different.
But even trying to just go into it was way harder than like rewatching the show and then going into season 4 and you're like, oh yeah, they're just as funny. It just has to be something different.
Right.
Because it's been fucking 10 years or whatever it was. And of course it does.
And I guess they couldn't get all the cast
I
together.
think 15 years.
So they had to like write around that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I heard the whole thing about Jeffrey Tambor getting canceled.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So a lot of people didn't watch season 5 because of that.
Really?
He's the one with the deep voice, right?
He's the old guy.
The old, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, which old guy?
He plays George Sr.
What? He got Me Too'd?
Yeah, well, not exactly Me Too, but I guess he was like yelling and screaming at the lady who plays his wife, Jessica. What is her name? I forget what her name is, but the lady who plays the mom. Yeah, I guess he had like a meltdown on the set yelling at her.
Yeah.
And then
I don't even care about
then
any shit.
the main guy, what's his face? Jason Bateman was like defending him, and then she got mad at him, and it was this whole thing. But it wasn't really like enough for me to care that much. Like
I would never get mad at someone for exploding on. I mean, to me, it's like they're creating something, and it's super difficult. And I could understand someone like just exploding at the moment of like, what the fuck? Like, we're trying to create something. I don't care if it's like a lady yelling at a guy or a guy yelling at a lady. It is just the idea of like to me, it's like there is something about like, I mean, thank God no one's recording me and MJ because I feel like I'm always like yelling at her about her art because it's like she'll ask me knowing the answer but just wanting me to tell her. But it gets frustrating because it's like I mean, that's why I could never be a fucking teacher because I would just yell at people because it's like I expect something from someone and I would get mad if they didn't do what I know they're capable of doing. But I understand that in creating art because there's this huge frustration when you're putting in effort and it's not being reciprocated. I mean, I don't know if that's what this case was, but like, I remember Christian Bale had a...
Right. I was just thinking about that because someone was like walking in front of him while he was doing like a big emotional scene.
Right. And you're like, yeah, fuck that guy. I don't care Christian Bale yelling. He was like, to me, it's like, he's doing his job and you're failing at your job. And to get to where, like, to do his job, he has to have the environment be a certain way. And if you're dismissive of that,
right,
then like go somewhere.
Yeah. Well,
fuck's sake, man, you're amateur.
That's part of it. Yeah. You hear his Welsh accent in there, which is rare when he's mad. But yeah, thinking about that, it's like acting and art creating in general can be a very emotional experience, especially if you're trying to like do a crying scene or something like that. And it's like, I would hate it if people were to criticize me at like my worst emotional moment, you know? And that's what, you know, celebrities are getting. It's like, oh, he's a jerk because he exploded at this one time when he was probably just like having a really rough time of, you know, doing the scene or whatever like that. So yeah, I would hate to have that kind of stuff like on display to be judged. And that's kind of my impression of what happened with Jeffrey Tambor is like he just like had a moment where he got really upset, you know, because I'm not exactly sure what the subject was, but it just like wasn't working for him. It wasn't like this pattern of him being abusive or whatever like that. It was just like a one-time thing. So yeah, but everyone has their moments.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't think actors are emotional, go fuck off. First of all, like, I mean, that's literally their job is to be emotional. That's their entire job, to be happy when you need to be happy, to be sad when you need to be sad. You think those people don't have like the most emotional personalities?
Right.
How the fuck could you be that without that?
I was watching an interview this morning before I came here. It was Larry David and Ricky Gervais. Ricky Gervais, I don't know if you've watched Extras, but he famously hates being famous because he hates people judging him in public. And if he does anything like untoward in public, people will be like, oh, Ricky Gervais is a jerk. Well, like a random person can just be like, oh, I'm pissed off about whatever.
Right.
Leave me alone. Don't talk to me. And it doesn't matter. But if he were to do that, it'd be all over the headlines that Ricky Gervais was an asshole to his fans or something like that. Yeah, exactly. You can't have a bad day. You can't not want to be paid attention to.
Right.
You have to tip super high because they know who you are, or if you tip a certain amount or whatever, or you don't donate enough, people will be like, well, that's just nothing to you because you're a rich celebrity,
Right.
all this kind of stuff like that. And Larry David's like, yeah, I kind of like it because people are nice to me now. And Ricky Gervais is like, well, I hate it. And he just like hates being famous. So
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It
Yeah.
seems like being famous would be like a miserable life.
I think so too. Well, you guys were talking about that, about art famous, because people
Yeah.
like don't know who you are. You can walk down the street even if you're art famous, generally speaking, and people don't know who you are. Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird because I've ran into two artists I like in my past that I've never met before. And I'm like, holy shit, you're blah, blah, blah. And they're always like, how do you know who I am?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, cuz. But yeah, it's that like, I remember one of the times the guy's friend was like, holy fuck, man, you're like famous. And I was like, but even then I was just like, I just wanted to say I like your work and then bye.
Yeah.
Actually, it wasn't even me, it was my sister. She was like, she knew who I was like, oh, that's that person. And she was like, I want to meet him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that great, like, that doesn't happen to him ever kind of thing, which is great.
How did it feel when you're creating murals and people were like coming up to you?
I just big time them.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm kind of a big deal. And they're like, where is MJ? And I was like, I'm Josh. And they're like, who?
Oh, really?
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's always nice to meet people. It's funny because I feel like a lot of the people that come to meet me at the mural are usually also like waiting to dry listeners. So it's like immediately I can feel like I can be a little bit more, less, not nice, but less, like cordial. I'm much more like, hey, cool. Like, so I can say like fart jokes and shit.
Right.
You said something. Yeah, you said something on the podcast a few podcasts ago where it's just like, we support racists on Waiting to Dry, and I texted Sergio and I was like, what was that about? And he's just like, well, our hardcore fans will understand that that's like a reference to a review or something.
Yeah.
But it's like I had no clue, and I was just like, what?
It's a dumb joke where like
Yeah.
it's like someone left a review that said we support racists. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Like, do I just
financially?
hold signs? I'm like, go racist! Like, do it! Like they're in a race.
Yeah.
You got this one.
The racist race.
I don't know what the support.
The amazing
like,
racist.
How do you even support
It's
racist?
like racist.
But it's like this way of being like, I'm not calling you a racist, but I'm attaching you to the idea. And I'm like, all right, leave me alone. You're an idiot.
That's so weird.
It's not even a thing.
Right.
You're either a racist or you're not. There's no way to support racist without being racist. So either call me a
I
racist or
support
don't.
the racist movement,
Yeah.
but I am not racist.
Yeah. I personally am not racist, but I hope they succeed. It's like this dumb idea. So it's like, so that's why I say it.
But-
It's like this stupid idea someone wrote of like they support race. What does that mean?
Right.
Call me a racist then, you fucking idiot.
But yeah.
Um,
but it's like the hardcore fans would understand
Yeah.
that kind of talk. Yeah.
I'm a white supremacist or some shit like.
And not white supremacist.
Yeah. I'm a tanned white supremacist. I'm the Tyrone Big. What is it? Tyrone? Is it?
What's
Who's
that?
the Dave Chappelle guy where he does the
What's
the
his name?
blind-
Clayton Bigsby.
Clayton
Bigsby. The blind white supremacist.
Am I Clayton Bigsby?
Yeah.
I'm learning this for the first time. So where did we leave off? Sergio,
We were.
you were saying you were making a very good point.
Oh yeah, he's talked
Always.
so much on this podcast.
People know what they're in for when they listen.
Right. You talk more on our podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I talk a lot.
I guess I'm more passionate about food at this point than art.
Oh, okay.
And not even like making it, just
Yeah. Just buying it and eating it. Yeah.
Well, we haven't talked about how we're moving to Colorado temporarily.
Yeah, for a month.
is that official now?
Yeah, I paid for it, so
shit.
yeah, we got a really cool loft apartment right next to Garden of the Gods and Red Rock Canyon. So it'll be good painting out there. We've decided that we don't want to like wreck our expensive apartments, so we're going to mostly do plein air type of stuff. And we don't really have a studio space, unfortunately. I mean, we could try and look into it, but
You couldn't like borrow Judson's or something?
he's going to be about an hour and a half away from us.
Right. Yeah.
But we're definitely going to be painting with him and talking to him. Did you tell him yet?
Not yet. No.
No, okay. Well, if he's listening, Judson, we're moving to Colorado for a month and a half.
Yeah.
Well, we're doing a plein air event at the end of it, too, in Idaho, but in the Tetons, which is going to be my first.
Yeah. Oh yeah, your first plein air.
Plein air
Get your
event.
Idaho jokes ready.
Yeah.
Idaho? Oh, Idaho? No, Idaho. Yeah. So we're going to be staying in the Snake River area, and we're going to go see the Tetons and Yellowstone, maybe, and it'll be cool. A lot of painting will hopefully happen in this month and a half.
A
So
little mountain paradise getaway.
yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, we were just thinking about we wanted to try. Well, I work from home. I work remotely, and obviously Sergio just is an artist. So we're
from
thinking
home.
about we want to take advantage of our freedom in that
For sure.
aspect while we have it right now. So decided. We were thinking about like what is it called? White salmon in the Columbia Gorge was one place we were looking at first, and we're thinking about
yeah.
Portland area maybe. But we eventually settled on Colorado because it seemed to kind of check all the boxes of what we
Black
wanted.
salmon to
Black salmon is across the river. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be cool.
Yeah. It's something that we'd been talking about for a while because we also kind of like testing the waters of living together, see how that works as
Yeah.
well.
So if that works out well, I mean, because we both live at home right now, and
you
I
guys
think
know you guys fart, right? Well, you guys know you guys fart.
She knows I fart.
I know he farts.
We're about to learn some, Sergio.
Yeah.
Give us an example. Just kidding.
MJ,
Have you ever farted on a podcast?
Have I farted?
Yeah.
on it? I don't think so.
yeah, I don't know if I have.
I mean, I guess you could always edit it out.
I haven't farted on the mic.
You just turn
I
around.
might have farted. I'm not gonna say it.
Might have silently farted during a podcast, but not like audibly. Yeah.
Maybe.
What are you doing on your soundboard?
This is what I go through. You know, sometimes I'm like,
Oh, I deal with it
hurry up,
too.
Sergio.
I deal with it too. There's like the awkward pause while he's like, this is like, I'll wait for you to make your point before I continue.
Sometimes it pays off big, though.
No,
Sometimes
it's
it pays
good.
off big.
I support that as a part of the process. Sometimes I'll just start pressing the buttons.
You just need to you need to get good at learning where everything is all the time.
Well, I even tried to arrange everything in alphabetical order. Still too many buttons to
many
scroll
buttons.
through.
Maybe you need to edit out the ones that are like, you know what? I don't need.
That's true.
You should
There's
do
a
your,
lot of
you should
them
do
on
your
there.
like top 10, like on the top 10.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, like I like oh yeah, and I like fuck off, and I like
Yeah.
what is the one? Isn't there one that's just
Shots
like Walmart
fired.
or something? Oh yeah, shots fired.
That's always a good
The
one.
Walmart one?
Maybe it
Walmart.
isn't.
Taco Bell.
Maybe I just imagine it being said at Walmart.
Okay.
It's always funny when I wait like a good amount for him to find what he wants, and then it just like the ding, like oh, that was it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, or the give up. They're like, I can't find it.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I think the trick is not putting the pressure on and him just doing it while we're not looking. Yeah. Ding.
Because there's some where I'm like, oh, I thought I had that on my board and I didn't even load it onto here.
Or sometimes you have one on like the other soundboard because he's got one for our food one and one for this one.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we've been
I just
missing.
got critiqued by waiting to try.
You just got critiqued by waiting to drop.
Your soundboard skills. We appreciate your contribution. Don't worry. Yeah. Whiskey time, spicy whiskey
I
time.
think there's been episodes where we're interviewing someone, but Sergio has almost only talked through soundboard.
Oh yeah, no, I've heard those episodes too. For the longest time, it's just like, are you actually like supposed to talk, or are you just like there in the background?
I think sometimes he's okay with just being like, bing.
Yeah.
That kind of reflects his real personality out in social situations, at least. But yeah.
This is all very true.
He's only not allowed to talk when I put my fingers up to his lip.
Oh. This is the dynamic we got going.
But that's usually that's usually leads up to a hot makeout session.
Yeah, that's off the air afterwards. After a
Yeah, usually it leads to a shut up and kiss me moment, and then, you know what I mean? And then that.
What about, oh yeah. Come on, Sergio. You got this.
This is
well played. Have you told Josh what my favorite soundboard moment is?
Oh. 1 second.
This is relevant. Don't worry. Do you have it?
Oh. This is one of those instances where it's not on this board.
Okay. Well, it's from Waiting to Dry, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
what is it?
It's you.
Do I say something?
Turkey, 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 turkey. Turkey, 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 turkey,
That's for,
turkey, turkey, turkey.
is that a mini-sode or something? Why do I don't even remember saying it.
It was this. You're like, you never heard the Thanksgiving song? And then you just started saying
We'll be driving around and we'll see turkeys and I'll be like, hey, Sergio, turkey, 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 turkey.
You've got to hit. MJ, like, there's a shitload of random jingles I make up that MJ either loves or absolutely hates. Like, grocery outlet. I have like a grocery outlet version, and she hates it. When we drive by a grocery outlet, she's just like hoping I don't sing it.
Do it now.
It's the grocery outlet song, which is
Grocery
like,
outlet, bargain market.
and I just say, where bargains are a market for you.
That's great.
And she hates it.
You should start doing that, Sergio. I would support you. I'm just kidding. I've literally never heard Sergio sing in a year and a half. I don't know if he's ever sang in his entire life.
What if he had like a beautiful voice?
He might.
If he's like all of a sudden sounds like Whitney Houston.
This is my new goal. Get you to sing. I've seen you dance.
Have you ever done karaoke, Sergio?
No, I hate karaoke.
I was about to say that seems like it would be horrible. You would be the most awkward.
Me and Tony Giraldi Brown, we're talking about getting Sergio to karaoke because Tony and I love karaoke.
I hate karaoke as well.
Like, we're just gonna drag Sergio to karaoke. He would hate it.
We were thinking of trying to do karaoke here.
That
Oh,
could
really?
be fun if it's here and not in front of other people.
We were thinking it would be this cool. We were thinking about making a version of karaoke where the idea is that you pick a song that you think you know all the words to, and then you sing it without the words, and then someone has the ability to turn the volume down at any point to see how accurate you're being. So it's like this idea of like, oh, this part's hard, like the part coming up is really hard. Let's see if they. And then you just like shut the sound down, and then they're like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I was singing in my car actually on the way here, and I was thinking about like, wow, if anyone heard this, it would sound so bad because I'm just like, like it's like, okay, now I know this line.
See you at the crossroads.
Yeah.
Gonna be lonely.
See you at the crossroads. Yeah.
I think that's how it started. Was like we were listening to like one of those like a Bone Thugs and Harmony song, and I was like, all you gotta do is just make up words.
Yeah,
just
that's true.
Learn the like.
Right.
It's just like, and I'm gonna be honey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
One time I was at my friend Gabe Moline's house. He was the editor for the Bohemian for a while, and now he works for like KQED, and he did a lot of like music and art type of stories. But I was there with a bunch of friends and we decided we were going to like record a cover album like randomly, and someone did a Bone Thugs and Harmony song, which was the like Wake Up It's the First of the Month song, and it was like da 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 da, like wake up it's the first of the like yeah, it's like nobody knew the actual
Trying to
words
get
to it.
mine, they're gonna go and I tonight tonight on the first.
Yeah,
That's why I wanted to do this. So you like drop it right.
all of a sudden
just like-
you could be embarrassed.
Yeah. You're like, you don't know that song as well as you thought you did.
Nope. Yeah. And it's like when you're singing along to like the actual like music of a song, you think you sound a lot better than your
Yeah,
voice probably like
exactly.
actually sounds. Yeah.
That's the other bonus.
Yeah. No, a couple times I've done karaoke and I've totally just like choked. One time my favorite band invited me on stage to sing my favorite song and I just completely choked. Like I couldn't even like sing
That's
it all.
mean of them.
It was like the most embarrassing
Well,
moment
that's
of my
like
life.
a dream people have to. Like,
I know. It was like a dream I had.
pulls you up and you sing with them, and then
And I'm just
then
like
you get
staring
it,
at
and then the girl next that was standing next to you was like, "I would have fucking nailed it.
right? Yeah.
I would have sang my heart out."
Or so she thinks.
Yeah.
Yeah. right?
All fun and game until you're the one getting pulled up.
Right.
I was like shocked. And I had like gone to Baltimore to see them and stay with some friends and everything. And they're like, "Hey, Vanessa, come on stage and sing this." And I'm
They
like,
knew your name?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Or is that like a Flight of the Conchords type scenario?
Not exactly. They're called the Fiery Furnaces and they're kind of like an indie band, but they're like, were kind of famous for a while. But,
I was just kidding. I was
yeah.
supposed to be a bad joke.
okay, I get it. Yeah. Okay.
Follow you, Flight of the Conchords.
I love Flight of the Conchords.
What the heck?
I've actually seen them like 10 times.
Have you seen it before, Sergio?
I've seen a few episodes.
Because there's like the one fan who's like,
Oh, Mel. Yeah.
where
Yeah.
they're like,
Kristen Shaw. Yeah.
and they're like, "Hey, Mel," and then even the husband is like driving her. To
Oh,
go
Doug.
see
Yeah.
them.
He's pretty funny.
Yeah.
He was in Breaking Bad, actually, that guy. Anyway, well, Sergio and I were listening to Kristen Shaw actually on another podcast we like called Bananas. And
I saw her stand up once. It was hilarious.
she's
really?
really funny. Yeah, I actually...
It doesn't translate to like watching her specials at all.
Oh, really?
Like when you watch it like live, you're like, "Holy shit, this is hilarious." Then when you watch it on like special, you're like, "This shit is dumb."
There's a lot of people who got kind of a start on Flight of the Conchords. They're probably already semi-famous, but there's like Kristen Shaw, Aziz Ansari, Arj Barker, who actually is from Marin, and I'm actually friends with him, and like a lot of cool comedians that like got started there. So it's a cool show to watch like for that purpose too, because it's like they're comedians before anything else. I mean, now Jermaine's like an actor and Brett's like a Oscar-winning composer, but
That's crazy.
they started out just being like a little comedy duo, like
Yeah,
making
and then
friends with all these
what's the
comedians.
other guy who was like the fucking director of everything now?
Oh, Taika
Taika.
Waititi. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He like directed like Thor. What else did he direct? recently?
Jojo Rabbit. That was
Oh,
like
yeah. That's what it was.
Jojo
yeah.
Rabbit.
Oh, yeah. You guys talked about Jojo
It's
Rabbit on the
something
podcast.
else.
Yeah.
He's the one where the kids, the
Hunt for the Wilder People?
Wilder people.
I never saw that. It's on
What
my
other
list.
thing they do?
The one
Did
with
he
the-
direct What We Do in the Shadows, the movie?
Yeah,
I think he did,
the
yeah.
Movie.
Oh, yeah. And then there's a show, too. I don't know if he's
And they
involved
did the
in
one
that.
where the kids like obsessed with Michael Jackson. I forget what that movie's called, but that one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were talking about Jojo Rabbit, about his role as Hitler and how he's like too likable to really be Hitler. But then again, that's kind of the kid's vision of Hitler.
There's a
Yeah.
fuck.
That's a whole
The
discussion.
Preacher. Have you seen The Preacher?
I have not.
There's a version. There's a similar kind of like thing where they have Hitler in it, and he's like in hell. And then
Okay.
he's like seems like this super nice guy. But then at some point he like turns on his Hitler, and then you're like, "Oh yeah, like they tricked you."
Oh, that's funny.
But it's like he's like, "I'm back, like do what the fuck I say," and he's like, everyone's like, because like all these badasses are like in hell.
Yeah.
All together, and they're all like horrible people, and Hitler's a part of it. But he seems like the sweetheart of the group. But then at some point, he just like turns it on, and then all the badasses are like, "Ah!" But it's
funny.
pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it injustice. And spoiler alert. I don't know if it's too late, but spoiler alert.
Well, I've been drinking too much to remember what you just said.
Yes.
So, yeah. Yeah, when I did what was it, like Brave Castle podcast, I accidentally got so drunk at the end of it. And we're just talking total nonsense. Like, he's talking about like going to Russia to hunt bears and stuff like that. Like, and I was just like, what? Sure. Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
Been plenty drunk. I think the drunkest I've ever been is actually Jason Avery. The first time we recorded was
Oh, really? For the podcast, you mean?
yeah.
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 Oh, really?
I was
Because he
pretty
just
shit
drank like a bottle of wine.
I think I drank 2 bottles of wine that day, like
Yeah.
fast.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, whoopsies.
Remember when we recorded with Camille? Shout out Camille, she's awesome. I think you drank like 2 heavy glasses of wine or something
Who,
like
me?
that. Yeah, but you didn't seem very affected by it. I was impressed. Yeah.
No, and I can't remember. I was pretty drunk with Jason Avery, but I don't know why I got that drunk. Because, like, I can drink a bottle of whiskey and be like, all right.
An entire bottle of whiskey?
Yeah, an entire bottle of whiskey.
Wow.
That's
Be
great.
pretty
That's
good.
impressive.
Or you're like, are you drunk? And I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling cool.
Yeah.
I think you also hadn't eaten anything that day either.
Yeah, that might have been it. But I remember I was browning at it. So I was like,
Browning out.
I was like, this is hard to keep track of, like what we're talking about.
Was browning out invented by Always Sunny?
I don't know.
It was invented by people that support racism.
Browning out. That's put whatever racist context to that you can.
Yeah, how come whiting out is so popular?
I'm really
So good.
browning out over here with you guys. Sorry.
But, yeah.
True.
I remember the day I realized Sergio was Mexican. I think we were already dating.
Really?
I was just like, wait, are you Mexican?
It was day one.
It wasn't. I think it was like a weekend. I was.
What
Just,
did you think he was?
I think I just didn't think about it
Oh wow.
because like all I knew him from was art contexts. But then as soon as I not even as soon as I met his parents, but I think we were talking about.
We're talking about something race related.
You were like,
I think we were talking about the whole gambling skin color thing, maybe.
Oh.
And I was just like, and you know, MJ had gotten like it was something on the podcast, and I was just like, is MJ Mexican? Oh, it was about the mural. That's what it was. And that like that lady who was freaking out on you guys because she wanted it to be like part of her thing.
Yeah.
You know, well, you guys talked about that plenty, and I was just like, are Josh and MJ Mexican? And he's like, no. And then I'm like, are you Mexican? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. You know. And then someone made a comment about us being an interracial couple, and I'm like,
That's what it was.
yeah. And I was just like, wait, we are.
She was like, what are they talking about? Sergio Lopez?
Well, Lopez could be a last name from a lot of different nationalities.
It's like you
to be
pronounced
fair.
it Lopez.
Lopez.
Like, Lopez. What did she say? It's actually pronounced Lopez. She was like,
How
Wait.
do you pronounce it correctly, Sergio?
Lopez?
Yeah, like
Lopez.
there you go.
okay.
Lopez. Shut
That's
up.
her
Well,
learning.
technically, it should have a Spanish accent if it's pronounced correctly. So there should be some lisp in there.
His first
Lopez.
name. His first name sounds different too, pronounced correctly.
Sergio.
It's like, it's like
Lopez.
Sergio. Sergio Casares Lopez.
Technically, all that has to be spoken with a lisp. But Sergio, they invented the language they get to say.
I tend to like do it in like a sensual like Sergio. But my friend who speaks Japanese, he always speaks in like a stereotypical like Japanese old man, like wise old man accent when he speaks Japanese. And I guess it's kind of hard to get out of the habit of like what you think a language should sound like when really, you know, people talk every day using that language, and to like put that kind of like, oh, I'm a Japanese old man. Like
That's how he
kinda-
talks?
Yeah, when he speaks Japanese. And it took him like years to get out of that habit, I guess, because it's like sort of problematic-ish, you know.
Why?
No, I don't know. I guess people are giving him a hard time about it. It's like, why when every time you speak Japanese, you're like, oh, I am a wise old fox, like that kind of like type of thing. Like,
That's hilarious. They wanted to like talk, like they wanted to be like,
Okitakimasu. Sushi person. Okitakimasu.
I noticed
Like, that's how they want him to speak.
I did the same thing when I was in Japan, where like the women there talking kind of like a high pitched like "Nihongo ga wakarimasu," like that kind of, not even like that,
But
but
they don't
like,
even want him to do that. They would want him to do like like when Americans speak Spanish and they're like, oh, let me get some guacamole without the jalapenos.
Yeah.
It's like they don't want because I always thought it was funny. I mean, first of all, I was guilty of it when I was a kid, but like when someone speaks like how you're supposed to speak a language, like you have to change how you talk because the language dictates it. So it's like if you say like tortillas versus like
tortilla.
the proper way of saying it, but I remember I remember a girl in high school being like, ew, that sounds disgusting when you speak Spanish to someone, to one of our friends, and it's like, what are you talking? Shut up.
What was disgusting about it to her?
Well, she was an idiot.
Yeah. Did she think
She
it was like
support
racist or
racists.
something? She supports racists.
I know.
Like trying to pronounce it properly was disgusting.
Well,
to
she
her.
just thought that because I mean, I went to high school in Los Baños, where it was like farm town people. So like, she had this dumb idea of like Spanish being attached to poverty or some shit.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's if I had to assume,
Okay.
that's where I would assume she led to that belief that Spanish speaking sounds disgusting to her.
Oh, she like speaking Spanish just in general was
Yes.
gross.
She was not. I did not support her.
No.
She was not a friend of mine. I
yeah.
just overheard her saying that. I was like, "You're a fucking idiot."
You grew up in.
But now I support her.
You support her because you
now that I-
support racists.
Now that I know,
Yeah.
now that I know what's right. I support her.
You grew up in Los Baños?
No, I grew up mainly in East Palo Alto and San
Right.
Mateo, and then I did 4 years or 5 years in Los Baños, and then here. So
Do you happen to know the Whitehursts from Los Baños? A friend of mine, Logan Whitehurst, passed away probably like 10 years ago. He was a really good
How old is he?
etcher, and he was a drummer. Oh, I don't know. When he passed away, I think he was like 35. So it would be like 45 now. He had brain cancer. But he did some really cool etchings for some album covers and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't. Did they stay there?
Their family's still there, but they're in Petaluma, like the rest of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was very much not in, like, I mean, I guess I did stuff in that town, but I was the only benefit of that being in that town was that, like, I hated being there so much that all I wanted to do was just stay in and draw.
Right.
Like, that was the benefit. Like, I always think, like, if I was not there, I don't know if I'd be an artist just because, I mean, I might be. I just don't know how. I'd be like 4 or 5 years behind in my skill level.
Hey, well,
interesting.
that's a benefit. I was actually thinking about like quarantine for artists is like not as bad as other people.
Not
This
at
is like, yeah. Well, this has been talked about to death, but it's like I'd be staying in and doing art anyway, you know. And also, it's supposed to like rain for a week straight, and it's like the thing that comes straight to my mind is like, oh, more time to stay inside and make art instead of like, you know, worrying
Right.
about going outside.
I
and
get
hiking
mad
and
about
stuff.
the rain, actually, because I'm in the garage and I'm like,
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to walk from my back door to my garage. Ugh. That alone can make me like figure out how to play around on the tablet. I'm like, I guess I'll just play on the tablet
Right.
indoors.
How do you feel about having your studio be your garage?
I mean, me personally, I would never not want a home studio.
Okay.
Like, to me, if I have an idea, if I want to do something, I want to be able to like just immediately do it.
Yeah. We were talking about that a little bit in the discussion of living together. There's always the do we want to get, you know, a house with a garage that Sergio can make his studio, or do we want to get a studio and then keep our studio? You know, it's just like, and then if we do that, it's like we've got to make sure it's close enough. Like there are some kind of cheap houses in like Bodega Bay or like Monte Rio, but it's like that would be like 45 minutes away from our studio, and that's too far. So it's just like, yeah, what would we want to do? Would we want to have a home studio that's maybe not as good as our studio, because you've been to our studio and it's huge, or do we want to keep what we've got already, which we do really like, but for economy reasons, like maybe getting either a 2-bedroom house or one with a garage would be better. But I don't know. What do you think, Sergio?
Yeah, I mean, if if it would be possible to get a place with a like a detached unit like that, that would be great. But
Yeah.
I don't know, we're talking a lot of
hypotheticals here. Yeah. Well, it's like rent is so low right now. Sometimes I'll just look at it. It's like 2-bedroom house for $1,500. And it's like, I know in the grand scheme, that's not low for like most people, but for around here, that's pretty good.
Yeah. That's how low rent is right now?
15, like about 1,500 for like an apartment is about like the going rate, where about, before COVID, it was probably about like 1,000 more than that. And, 1,500 for both of us is definitely like doable, but 2,500 not so much, so yeah, it's a fine line. But,
And there was a house we were thinking of upgrading. There was like a house like there's like that little park kind of near the butcher shop over there.
Yeah.
And it had it was like this size house but one more bathroom, and then it had like a literal warehouse size building behind it.
Oh yeah, I remember
and
you
I was
talking
trying
about
to
this.
convince MJ to buy it, and she was like, I don't know. And it's like always in my mind of like, if I had like fucking 4,000 square feet like warehouse where I was
unlimited
kidding.
possibilities.
I could literally
Shit.
have anything I want in there.
Yeah, that could be rad.
That's what I want now. It's like all I think about. I'm like, how do I find that?
Right.
Yeah, well, Sergio got a commission for a piece that was like 10 feet long. Well, it's not finalized yet, but like we're thinking about like even in our huge studio, that's going to be a challenge to do something that big,
It's 10
Yeah.
feet long
Yeah.
by.
I think 7 feet tall. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'd have
It's
to like
doable.
It's on
but
canvas.
move the couch and
it would be on
stuff.
canvas. Yeah.
That's the only option, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that point, yeah.
Well, it would pay enough to cover like getting all that made and stuff like that theoretically.
Right.
But yeah, don't want to jinx it by saying it's going to happen because it's not finalized. But it's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, even in a big studio like we have, like that would be challenging because you have to like move everything around.
Yeah. It would take a lot of rearranging things.
But if you had a warehouse like that, you could do like anything. You could do like a mural in there. You could do murals over all the walls. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it
could be
does
rad.
like, because we're doing a mural for Mendocino, I think, this year.
Oh, yeah?
And we're trying to figure out if we can do it all here and just install
Oh, yeah, cool. The town of Mendocino or the county?
the town, I think.
The town is cool.
I don't actually know. I've never been to. We're supposed to drive there soon and check out what we're going to do with the mural.
Oh,
gotcha.
okay.
Just so we have like an idea, but it's one of those things where it's like if we can create it here and go there and install, then it's like
That makes your life
such a
so much
benefit.
easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could like get up in the morning and go do it. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to drive however many hours.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not on a wall, or I mean, like,
It is.
but not outdoors.
We have to look at the wall first if that needs preparation or not.
Oh,
But if you
okay.
can just put it on something and then make sure that thing will last long and then install it, then you don't have to think about that wall preparation.
Right.
I forget where the area is called. The canal. Do you know what that is?
I do not.
No.
The canal. I'm guessing it's not in the town of Mendocino because the town is like tiny. But
Yeah,
I
maybe
don't know.
I might even be dead wrong, but
It might be like
be honest.
Ukiah or something else in Mendocino County.
wait, Mendocino's north?
Yeah.
No, it's south.
Oh, is it Marin?
Marin. Yeah, that's the one.
Nice. Different vibe. Both M's.
I'm so bad at like learning all the fucking cities around this area. I'm like, I don't know. How am I supposed to learn every fucking city's population is like 5,000 people? Like, god damn, this shit is hard.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm from this. I'm like, I don't know. Where's by what? Which direction?
Yeah.
I can gauge if you're a river person.
I'm a river person.
Yeah. Or a fucking, I don't know, bay person or a fire person or a
Fire
ice,
person,
ice
like a-
tribe or whatever the fuck.
The song of
Water
Ice and
tribe,
Fire.
Yeah, water tribe. I don't
Water tribe.
Yeah.
Do you know where Forestville is, Josh?
Yeah, I know where Forest Hill is.
That's where I
I
live.
feel like I know most.
That's close to
river,
here,
'cause
yeah.
It's like water appeals to me, so I'm like, so I'm like, oh, these are the cities that I would want to visit.
You go in the water like no matter how cold, huh?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Whoa.
You'll swim in Tahoe.
I don't like hot water, to be honest.
You don't like hot tubs?
I fucking hate hot tubs. I think they're a waste of time. I'll just.
I can see that. If you don't like being hot, then that would be a miserable experience.
Yeah, I've always been into pools, not into hot tubs. I take cold showers, and
What?
And in the wintertime, I take
lukewarm showers.
I really don't like saunas. Like I remember I saw a sign on the sauna that was like a 10-minute limit, and I'm like, I could do more than that. And then like after like 3 minutes, I'm like, nope, I'm out of here. It's like, do I want to sweat and be horribly miserable like on the worst day ever?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that.
No,
I don't do that to myself.
Yeah. I feel like that's what hot tubs are.
I could see that.
Yeah, on some level, yeah.
Like on a hot day, I don't want to get.
It's just you're not noticing your sweat, but it's there. It's there.
Yeah.
I was at a spa one time, and they had a cold plunge, and you go in the cold plunge, and then you go in the hot tub, and it's like makes you have like weird feelings
Yeah,
in
done that
your
before.
body. Yeah.
I actually don't mind that because I hate the hot tub, but I like the feeling of cold. So if there's a hot tub and then a pool, if you go in the hot tub, so the pool feels colder, I like that.
Yeah. I like being in a hot tub and then jumping in a pool, even though it's kind of hard to do that sometimes, to get yourself to do that sometimes.
I love it. I hate being in the hot tub. It's like, I can't wait to get in that
You could
pool.
join like the polar bears. What is that thing in Seinfeld where Kramer's like
into
swimming in
that.
the river?
Oh,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. I've been in like we used to go to Santa Cruz a lot, you know, and I used to go in there in like mid-December, January, and it would be pouring rain,
Oh wow.
and I would
Oh,
be,
yeah.
be in there like, it's great, no one's here.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
It's weird because it's almost like it was too easy because it was cold outside.
Uh-huh.
So like your body doesn't.
Oh, right.
adapt.
You were already acclimated
Where like in
somewhat.
the summertime, it's like, oh wow, this is really cold.
Yeah, that actually
Yeah, that's
makes
a
a
good
big
point.
difference. Like I noticed that when I swim in the river and it gets dark out, it's like after the sun goes down, it feels warmer just because of the like
Right.
contrast.
Yeah.
You know, tie it into art contrast. Actually, Sergio's lessons on contrast helped me a lot.
Did they? Oh, good.
Saying like,
Good plug tonight.
What is the class?
well,
He does, or-
so when doing plein air specifically, this is for his oil class, I think. Actually, I've read like all of his materials. Even if something's really similar in color, there's always some kind of contrast going on. Like for example, you've got leaves against other leaves. And there is some kind of contrast happening between this leaf and the leaf behind it. And it's like you got to look for that so you can define the leaf in front.
Right.
You know, so that's something that's actually helped me a lot. I don't think I ever even told you that.
No.
I absorb everything Sergio puts out. Really. I feel like
to dry exclusive.
I wonder how much I would have grown as an artist if I like wasn't with you. Probably not that much.
You wouldn't pay from life, probably. at
Probably
first.
not. Well, it was mostly Heather, but partly you that inspired me to paint from life. Because we joined the Art Refuge Facebook group she does, and she made this like really good case for painting from life. And at first I was like, I don't really know about that. I'll just paint from
What does she
photos.
know?
It'll look better. Well, and then I tried it, and I realized that like it helps me a lot. And then I do think painting from photos can help people because I think it can help you kind of interpret how your brain is tricking you, you know, when you look at things. That can be kind of challenging when you try to paint from life. But at the same time, actually doing it, well, I compare it to kind of like language learning. Like I went to Japan and I studied Japanese for 6 months, and I found that to be really fulfilling because every time I do a lesson, I'm learning stuff and I could see myself learning stuff. And when you can see yourself learning stuff, it's addictive, like we talked about earlier. And that's how I feel about painting from life. It's like every time I do it, I'm getting better at it. And that's addictive to me. It's like playing Guitar Hero. It's like you play Guitar Hero for a couple hours and you start to get better at it. And you're like, oh, I could beat this. I could beat this next level, you know? And it's just like, it's how they get you, you know? So,
But I mean, I think it's based on your intention. I always find it like super interesting because that whole like I don't know, conversation around painting from life versus painting from photo, because it's a one-sided like conversation. It's like people that paint from photo, or if you're like, oh, I really like painting from life. It's kind of like a weed smoker, right? Like I always find when you go to a party and you're like, oh, I don't smoke weed, and they're like, why not? And you're like, because I don't like it. And they're like, you smoked it wrong. And you're like, leave me, and
that's totally a thing,
and you're
yeah.
like, leave me the fuck alone. Or like a beer drinker, you're like, you want
Oh,
beer?
sure.
And they're like,
and you're like, no, I don't drink beer, and they're like, all right, fine, that's fine. Like we got this and that, right? There's like this weird like separate. There's like these two mentalities where it's like where there's like the argument has to exist on this end, but on that end, it's like I don't care if you paint for life or photo, like just do whatever you want. That's how I always, because I paint from photo, but I don't like if someone's like I paint from life, I'm like, oh, that's cool, like do you?
Yeah. I say, yeah.
But there's always the opposite argument where it's like you don't have to validate your existence
Right.
for me to like you know what I mean, like yeah, paint from life, like I get it, like there is great things that come from it, and I notice it and I see it. It's just me as a human
Right.
being. It's not my I get paranoid when I paint from life.
I see huge benefits in painting from photos, to be honest, because it's like there's so many advantages to it. It's just for my personal fulfillment, I like painting from life.
Yeah, I
and
totally
it's almost
get it.
like a stepping stone for me, because like I want to graduate to like painting from photos to doing kind of more spectacular things that are more interesting and more consumable, that I can like put more creativity and interest into and don't have to worry about, the setup of having it sitting in front of me and all the logistics that would require. But personally, I enjoy it more, and that's kind of the thing about it, So it's like I don't have highfalutin ideas about how you have to because it's better,
No.
Yeah.
To me, it's just the argument doesn't need to exist. It's like if someone's like, I paint from life, it's like, yeah, that makes like that's what's up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
like that. It's that like.
Right.
It's like I enjoy weed. It's like I'm not saying don't smoke it. I just don't.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I feel like people who act that way, because I'm a very heavy weed smoker, spoilers, but I feel like people who act that way have gotten like shit about it before and are just like, well, you don't smoke weed, you must be judging me, and they feel kind of that way about it. And it's just like, just do what you do. I don't give a shit what you do. Just do whatever you want. And that's how I feel about art. It's like, you don't need to validate your art for me as long as it's like it's being created like ethically, like as long as you're not doing anything like wrong when you create it. Like I don't know,
as a person who supports racist, I think even if it's ethically wrong, it's fine.
Right. But it's just like, people don't need to like justify their process to me. Yeah.
I mean, even to the point where it's like, you can like what I said earlier with a TikTok person, where it's like you can even be horrible at art. Even if I'm like, you suck at art, even though I wouldn't say that, but like, let's say if I'm like, that art is not, I think it's not good. That doesn't devalue what you're doing. Like that doesn't like say, that doesn't mean you have to stop doing what you're doing. Like if I'm not into fucking eating Brussels sprouts, that doesn't mean you can't fucking farm Brussels sprouts. You know what I mean? If I'm like, it's like this idea of like, I think that's bad art. I think it sucks. I think it's whatever. And people are like, how dare you? And you're like, relax. Even to that extent, it's like, it's like I have my idea what I think is good and bad, and I have my way of getting there, and I'm willing to explain it to a point, but to get defensive because you feel like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm going in.
Well, I get it.
Too long to explain.
Art is so personal too that it's just like you have your own kind of views about it. Like it reminds me of like I'm having dinner with my mom and she'll be like, "Do you want any green beans?" And I'll be like, "No, thank you." And she'll like look at me like mad that I don't want green beans. And it's like, "Why don't you want them?" And I'm like, "I just don't want them." Like, do I have to explain myself? Like, I just don't want them. Like, and it's just like, I don't want to have to justify my own personal decisions. Like, for like what I like and don't like.
Even if I think like, even like, for instance, going back to food, like if I think something is horrible and I'm like, I think this is not good, period. Like I'm willing to explain why I think it's not good. Let's say, I don't know, goddamn, there's got to be something I think that we I don't know, In-N-Out fries, I would say. All right.
Ugh.
Yeah, I would say,
Don't like.
okay, In-N-Out fries, I go, In-N-Out fries are not good. Right? There are people that love In-N-Out fries. And I would say, no, In-N-Out fries are not good. They're just not good.
They taste like styrofoam.
Yeah, they are an idea that makes sense but isn't executed well.
Right.
And I would make my argument, right? And I would be very adamant of like, they're not good. I don't care what you say. They're not good in my opinion. They suck. If I was to say a good fry would be a McDonald's fry, even though the idea might be horrible of creating this mush that becomes the shape of a fry, I think it's a way better fry than a McDonald's.
Sure.
Also, I would like to say I'm not a fucking French fry fan, weirdly, even though I keep bringing French fries like the universal delicious food.
Yeah.
But like In-N-Out fries, and I would make this argument, right? And it's like, but people love it, so I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't have to exist. I'm just saying that my opinion in this realm is that thing fucking sucks. But people get so mad when you say that shit now, with art especially, when you're like, that shit sucks. They're like, it's all subjective. And I'm like, no shit.
Yeah.
And my opinion is that it fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Can I not have that opinion? Like, what the fuck? Like, just like you can say it's great, I can say it sucks and I can have my reasoning. But it's that like, oh, well, it's all subjective. It's like, yes, I know.
Right.
And also, someone might actually suck at something, and it's fine. You know what I mean? Kids can make a, you know what I mean? They might, you know, when like, you ever seen like someone has kids and they bring you something?
Right. Or they like do a drawing or something and it's terrible.
Like,
Yeah.
Here, I made this food for you. It's apple and fucking peanut butter. And you're like, yeah, okay, cool, thank you. And you eat it and you're like, it's delicious.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, I mean,
We're all
that's
learning.
not
We're
really
always
a
learning.
dish,
Yeah. You're right. I think we talked about that on that episode you guys recorded at the studio about how like people are afraid to say that they don't like art and they want to just be like, oh, it's just not for me. And it's like, that was actually a very thought-provoking discussion because I was just like, there actually is art I don't like.
Yeah.
You know, there definitely is.
not only that, but it's the assumption that artists can't handle the fact that they might not be good. It's like, tell me if I suck or not. I don't give a fuck. Like the fact that you have to like hold my hand because I don't know, I'm so fragile that someone's opinion of me being not good all of a sudden destroys my, I don't know, everything. It's like, I'm good. Tell me I'm bad. I don't give like, tell me I'm not your taste. Tell me you're some other shit. I don't give a fuck. And maybe I did when I was younger, but that's because I was insecure when I was younger. And I didn't understand that that was okay to be like,
Right.
you know, bad at, or to not be someone that, people don't like my Brussels sprouts. I don't give a fuck. You know?
Right.
Like, it doesn't mean I don't need to eat Brussels sprouts.
Well, it brings up the interesting difference between like objectively bad and like people's opinions. Like Sergio and I have talked about this a lot, that like there's a lot of artists on Instagram that are super popular with like hundreds of thousands of followers doing stuff that's like maybe not that interesting, but it's like people like it because it's like simple or consumable, or they look at their feed and they see like a very uniform thing,
Right.
you know, and it's just like, is it good? Is it skillful? No, not necessarily, but do people like it? Yeah. You know, so it's just like there's so much that kind of goes into what's
even
good or
being
bad.
skillful can be bad.
Yeah, and it's like everything is just based on everyone's like personal opinion.
Right.
You know.
But even then it becomes like, you know, like I'm a big fan of the show Top Chef, for instance, right? And their job is to pick apart dishes that are created by very, very talented chefs. And so they are taking something that is probably in like to everyone, eating their food is delicious, right? And their job is to define within that category what is good and what is great. And to get to that point, you have to acknowledge that there's shit. You know what I mean? Like you have to acknowledge that, like, if I pour a fucking pound of salt onto a piece of chicken, it's unedible. Like that's the fact of the matter. Like, I don't give a fuck what you think. It's unedible. It's not good.
Right.
It sucks.
Right.
And to protect the creator of that dish is dumb.
Right.
You know, and like because you're assuming that you're protecting them when in all actuality you're not letting them grow. You're not going, this is bad, use less salt.
Right.
The end. Now he knows or she knows or whatever to use less salt when they cook chicken. It's like, it's this dumb thing of holding your hand through things which actually stunts growth rather than creates better art.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny because when on those shows, there's always like that person in the show that does something bad, but they're so like they're so defensive about it that the show like offers you up this person, like make fun of this guy because he doesn't get it. It's
Right.
like,
Right,
that
that's-
doesn't
yeah.
seem to exist in like visual art in that way.
Right.
Yeah. Gordon Ramsay's not afraid to talk shit to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Yeah.
And if you pay attention to how great the culinary world has been doing, they are growing as far as like an art form. They have made themselves develop way past where they were 20 years ago. They're so much more respected than they were 20 years ago because they are able to take that criticism and grow.
Right.
And they're able to educate people on what good food is rather than
Exactly. Yeah.
But you can't do that as an artist. You can't say, this is good, this isn't good, this is okay, or this has potential, but is still growing. All these things can be true, but we can't do that because art is subjective. And you're like, no, you're abusing that term in a way that is stunting artists from growing and saying like, yeah, art is subjective. I can like rap music and not country music. That's fine. That's taste. But that doesn't mean that fucking Bow Wow's music is good because I like rap music. I could say his shit sucks. Like it's acceptable. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
but it doesn't exist in the art world, which gets fucking annoying because you're like, there is good and bad, but there's also taste. But you have to understand quality before you can get to pinpointing and critiquing on a level that's that's productive for the artist to go, oh, and that's when you see like artists talking about each other's work. There are these like interesting things where they go, oh, you ever thought about this or that or this? And there does, you get this interesting feedback where you're like, oh, that might actually work because just like food, you might say like, I need more acid or might need whatever to play off each other. Well, art is the same way. And it's like, well, this might be lacking that. And then, and that's where it existed. Right now it's between artists, but the outside world doesn't have that ability to even understand good art because they're under the idea that you have to fight against that idea that there's good art. They're like, everyone that knew on the TikTok thing, everyone I would click on their profile and none of them even like share anything. They're just like,
Right.
it's just like, you're just here giving your opinion, but
Right.
you don't even know how to create.
I noticed that when I follow or when people follow me, I'll click on their TikTok and it's like literally zero content. It's like you're just on here to watch other people, which is fine. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
because it makes you do that. But
Right.
at the same time, I'm like, well, you know, there's no interest there. Like
Yeah.
you're just here to like talk shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How long, I'm just curious, how long were you and MJ together before you started talking about what you don't like about each other's art?
Good question. MJ was immediate. I mean, MJ, her
Like you towards her or her towards you?
her towards me, her insecurities were brought to the forefront immediately, and we had to work through that. Where, let's see, I honestly don't know when I started giving MJ feedback on her work.
But it wasn't right away.
No, for sure it wasn't right away.
It's like
There was a lot of shitty artwork she was making.
Was this still during the phase where she was like painting like zombie people, basically?
Yeah. Yeah, literally, she would stop painting zombie people when we started dating because, I mean, she's told me that it has something to do with like, she had a lot of personal struggles in her. Like at the time, she was going through a lot of like immigration shit with her parents and the potential of deportation. So it was like a dark time for her, and her art reflected the darkness or whatever these dark themes. And then when we started dating, she like had no. You know, I'm the light of her life. I mean, no big deal. I'm just a glow. People always say they think I'm pregnant because I'm glowing, and I get that. But yeah, I think when we moved into together is kind of when MJ's. So I guess 2 years after, but there was I mean, maybe before that. I don't know. It was funny because we would trade art when we first started dating, and people would always compliment me on MJ's art as being my art.
Yeah.
It used to fucking infuriate me. They would say like, "Oh wow, I really like your new paintings," and I'm like, "Which one?" And they would point to MJ's, and I would be like, "That's MJ's. Fuck you." Like, and they'd be like, "Oh no, I like your other stuff too."
Embarrassing for them. Yeah.
Even my mom did it, and all my family and all my friends, and I was like, "You guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about." But yeah, I mean, definitely moving in was an interesting thing because you're there during the process. So after, it's easy to kind of be like, "Oh, that looks good," after, but like during the process, if MJ had a question, that's kind of when I couldn't shut my mouth and would have to address something that annoyed me.
Right. Yeah. It's always funny with Sergio. I'm like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And he'll be like, "It's okay." And that's when I know that like there's problems with it. 'Cause he's not willing to say like anything mean, but like he'll definitely like be like, and I'll be like, "No, don't say it's okay. Like really tell me what's wrong with it." And then I'll try and work on that.
Person. Yeah.
All right, we are back.
Yeah. You should meet Otis though. He just bought a $6,000 painting from me, so
Oh wow.
he's a
So
good
he's cool.
person to potentially know. I was showing him because he came by during when Larry came, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Sergio." I was like, "Yeah, he hosts the podcast with me, so hopefully he'll boss him from me at some point."
Maybe.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I thought Otis was the dog at first. So what was that? So what was that sledgehammer thing?
Cut all that out, bro.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know Sky by any chance? Sky Barnett?
It's familiar, but I don't know.
I got drunk with him maybe like a month ago, and I must have promised him to like make a axe handle for him,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
and so
You get drunk and promise to make axe handles. And he just has like an axe head.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
I guess that's what I did. I can't remember doing it, but I also
Drunken promises.
I wasn't even that drunk, so but I do get, even if I have like a buzz, you can get me to do anything pretty much at that point. You're like, "We should do this." I'm like, "Yep." Yeah. About a year ago, or 3 years ago, I got drunk with Sergio when we started a podcast.
I remember hearing about that
You
somewhere.
need me to do something.
We got drunk and started a podcast too.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. See?
We had a really good meal and got drunk.
Yeah.
And I had macaroni in my hair and he ate it out of my hair. That really happened.
I don't know if that's romantic or disgusting, but
Kind of both.
Call me. Little call me.
I was shook by that because this is like, I don't know how a macaroni ended up like in the back of my hair somehow, but Sergio just grabs it and like eats it. And it was like pretty early in our dating career too, but that was the meal that inspired our food podcast.
well, now you know if you need him to.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Well, it's pretty funny. He'll have like a Gatorade that's been sitting in the studio for like 3 weeks, and he'll be like, "Oh, maybe this is still good." I don't know. Just like, well, if you're
Waste
okay with
not,
that, then
want
sure, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, we have a food podcast called Bit Saucy.
Plug.
Controversy.
Oh, yeah.
Full of controversy. Not anymore, really, but yeah.
Yeah.
It has the best theme song ever.
Bit Saucy Podcast.
Dip it in and sauce it up with Sergio Lopez and Vanessa Walsh.
A Bit Saucy Podcast. Dip it in and sauce it up.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Isn't it beautiful, though? I really do like it. It's very catchy. We paid someone $50 to do that.
Nice. On,
Yeah.
what's it called?
Fiverr.
Fiverr, yeah.
Where all your stuff comes from, too. All the dishes are waiting to dry exclusive. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. That guy's a champ.
That's cool though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know we just got back, but we're at pretty much 2 hours now.
Okay. So are we cutting this?
Okay.
All right.
Well, we don't have to.
It was just a weird spot to end.
No, I know. We don't have to end. We did have like 5 minutes in the beginning.
Or
where
we
it
can
was
do
just
like
being
a
nonsense.
rundown of. So if anyone wants to find you, Vanessa,
Find me? Oh, well, okay. My Instagram is Compass Rose Artistry. If you want to see a bunch of gouache paintings from life, I'm doing the Strata Easel Challenge right now, where you paint something from life every day for 31 days. Yeah, so in
Is that
December.
your TikTok name as well?
Yeah, Compass Rose Artistry is my TikTok as well. So check out my TikTok. Yeah, so in December and November, my job gets really intense during the holidays, like almost unbearable, because I do printing. And a lot of people were doing printing this year because they can't see their loved ones, so they're printing their photos and sending them to them. So I pretty much stopped painting for like a month and a half, and it was like miserable. So I started this Strata challenge, even though Sergio's not doing this time. He did it last time with me, but this time it's just me. And it really helped get my painting back into gear. So that's pretty much all my Instagram feed for the past month or so. But some of that stuff will probably be archived after a while, because when you're doing a painting every day, not all of them are going to be good.
Right.
But definitely a larger percentage of them are good than last time I did it, which I think was like August or something like that. So I think I only have like 2 or 3 I don't like this time. Well, last time I did it, it was like half of them. So anyway, Instagram and TikTok, Compass Rose Artistry, and Facebook business page too, if that's your game. If that
If
even
you're
does
over
anything
50,
anymore.
that might be
If you're over
your jam.
50. Yeah, and gosh, is there any other social media I have? I don't think so.
You got your photos, Bloom Report.
Oh yeah, so I do macro photos of flowers on Bloom Report Macro on Instagram. That stuff's pretty cool. I actually really like that stuff. But I enjoy painting a lot more than I enjoy photography. But I do like flowers and nature a lot too. So if you want to check that stuff out, Bloom Report Macro on Instagram. There's some close-up pictures of flowers that are pretty cool. Anything else that I need to plug? Not really. I'm like, Sergio, keep me on
We already
track.
plugged the food podcast.
That's my whole thing. It's like, Sergio, keep me on track. That's what I always say on our other podcasts. It's like, I smoke too much weed to remember anything. Sorry. Yeah, scandalous. But yeah, all right. Check me out if you want me to, I guess.
There you go. I got the Sentient Academy signups for the gouache course. Are coming up now.
Yay! Yeah, sign up for his gouache course. It's going to be so cool. I'm so excited. Genuine excitement.
And yeah, I still have the oil painting course. I got a couple people who signed up to beta test it recently,
Nice.
so that's good.
Yeah.
So that's still a thing.
TheMainLoop.com. Sign up to be a beta tester for Sergio's course to get 75% off.
Yeah, exactly.
You just got to give a little bit of feedback. And who doesn't like the world to know what they think?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of.
Yeah, Sergio, you
Well,
haven't
if you
talked about
pay me,
yourself
you
at
can tell
all.
me what you
Yeah. But it's cool though. You're the patented ECR method, establish, compare, refine, by Sergio Lopez.
That's why you need a girlfriend, guys, so she can plug all your things you don't have to.
I did that the last time I was on the show too. It was like themainloop.com. Because you're too modest to plug yourself.
Yeah, I just think
You
it's
should.
annoying to do it for yourself over and over.
Well, there you go. I'll be your girlfriend. I'll be your,
I
I'll be
also
your
have to
soundboard.
play promote Sergio's classes for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of the time, I'm like, what is that class for?
Check out Instagram, Joshua the Lawyer, and TikTok too. Yeah.
Is that it, Sergio?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, everybody else people know all my other socials at this point, hopefully. I mean, I am on TikTok now.
Instagram,
too, guys.
Sergio Lopez Fine Art. TikTok, Sergio Lopez Fine Art, right?
Yeah.
Instagram, Sergio Lopez Landscapes. Instagram, Sergio Lopez Drawings. Instagram, A Bit Saucy Podcast. Instagram, Waiting to Dry Podcast. You're
You
already
see
here,
why I
right?
don't do this every time?
Because it's really annoying.
Yeah, it's just too long.
I'll be annoying for you guys. Yeah.
And then for me, all I have is the Lost Home
yeah, you just
clothing
started
line.
the
Oh my gosh.
Grams for those.
Plug. I love Josh's shirt that I got.
Yeah,
It's awesome. I wore it for like 2.5 days straight when I first got it. So everybody listening, this is really high quality, nice clothing. This isn't some like crappy $5 t-shirt. Like seriously, it's worth it. It's awesome. Buy Josh's clothes because they're cool. Lost Home clothing.
I promise that's the
Plug.
only reason it costs too much money.
yeah.
It's because I have to pay too much money to do it.
Hey, man.
Make it, yeah.
You got to do what you got to do.
But yeah, I'm trying to do a thing where I released one. So I'm waiting on the printer to tell me they're done. But I'm coming out with a T-shirt / print silkscreen print combo that I'm gonna be selling for like I'm gonna try to get it as low of price as possible. That I'm gonna start trying to do once a month. So I'm waiting. I'm hoping it comes out. They're gonna email me or talk to me like within today or tomorrow, so that I get that out and rolling. But I'm gonna be doing that small runs of like 25. So it's like 25 T-shirts and 25 prints, and it's a combo of both, and they're slightly different from each other, but they're the same. Like the first one is that painting there, but digital design of it. You guys can't see what I pointed, but
So one of the girl with the ghosts around her feet. Yeah.
So so that's gonna be the next T-shirt, and then I'm gonna have a silkscreen print with that on Arches paper.
I love Arches. We talked about that on Instagram.
Yeah. So that so we'll see how that goes. I think they're gonna go by super quick. But I figured I'd let you guys know, and then the people that followed me on Lost Homes podcast. Those are the two people that are going to get access
You mean
to
Instagram?
it. Lost Home Instagram, yeah.
I was like, is that a Lost Home podcast? What?
No, Lost Home Instagram, yeah. Sorry, I'm a little buzzed. Yeah, those are the two places I'm kind of letting people know. And then I'll probably, whatever doesn't sell there, like with you guys knowing, and if you don't follow Lost Home on Instagram, then follow it. But that's where things are going to be put out first, so they get first access, and then I'll put it for whatever's left. I'm going to put for my main page.
Cool.
I completely forgot we're talking to an audience this entire time. We're saying you guys. Hey, you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, I have some insider information.
What's that?
Sergio is coming out with some stickers.
Oh,
That should be arriving today or tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
So the
Just made some sticker sheets.
/Sergio
I'll try and
Lucas
get those
Fine Art.
up quick as I can. Probably won't be up by the time this episode comes out, but yeah,
Nice.
check it out.
Yeah.
Sticker
What's on?
pack.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Sticker
Yeah,
pack.
sticker sheets, but yeah.
They look
sheets.
really good. They look actually like really realistic when they're like die cut. So it's like perfectly like a round. It's a lot of his like food paint drips and stuff like that.
Nice.
And yeah, they're really cool. So
yeah.
check them out, you guys.
Hell
Yeah.
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 Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
we did it.
We did it. We did the thing.
Hell yeah. This has been Wet and Dry. You got anything else?
No, I was just gonna say so after our 10 minutes of plugs, we're good.
Sorry.
Sorry, guys. At least it's at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're still listening, go buy sticker packs.
Yeah, there you go.
Fuck off. I don't know.